Hi, and welcome to Thursday with a Friend. My name is Lawrence, Larry, Punk, whatever you want to call me. And today, my very special, special guest, Michael from Toy Habits. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me on. I was so excited when you reached out to me because I love doing this stuff. It's like this is why I do YouTube and do this is to meet other people and just either talk toys or just talk about ourselves. So this is great.
And I, the Monday show is much more popular, but I am so much more proud of this show because it's actually getting to know people in not just the community, but the whole point of doing this was to um, get to know people that have supported me in my journey, whether it be on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. But I don't know about you. When you're in big chats like yours, Geek Dead Life, Toy Anxiety, you see all these people chatting, and my whole thing is always like, what is that guy's deal? What is her deal? Like, what is her story? And I got to do it, and I absolutely love it. And we've got to meet some really good people, and then like going to Joe Fest and meeting all those people. It's awesome. And I know you've been to a lot of events where you've got to meet people. So thank you for coming on.
Sure.
Quickly, let's because it's already here. Where is it at?
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here
I
comes
love
the
it.
money.
Daniel Heron, Yojo Toy Habits, $2 super chat. Thank you. I don't think I've ever seen you. Is he someone from your channel?
He is Daniel. Daniel and I actually met really, really early in my YouTube career. He is the most generous person I've ever met. I used to go on to his show. He has a YouTube channel called Soundtracks with Birdman, and he
Wow.
reviews music scores, movies. So we used to do a lot of like rewatches of movies and just talk about the music score and the movies. And so we actually talk and text like on a weekly basis. He's a very good friend, and he's the nicest guy that I'm hoping to meet in person really soon.
Isn't it crazy how many people you meet that you become good friends with? That first off, you don't even meet them for a while, but you become such good friends. Like Tony's Figs. I don't know if you know who he is. Him and I became like great friends, and we never met to Joe Fest. And it's just crazy when you think about it. It's like, no, these are my actual friends, but I don't know them.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, like how many people you don't know that you've never met in real life. But I feel like once we talk like this and once we're chatting online, it's like people become like instant best friends. And when you meet in person, it's like you've been best friends for a very long time.
And I think because you're seeing face to face, like it's
Yeah.
that face to face thing that you have going on that you have a connection. It's not a pen pal. It's not talking to someone on the phone or in a chat. You're actually seeing them, and you see their facial reactions. You know if they get mad, if they flip out. I may go off the rails at times. Uh, if someone upsets me. So I'm gonna ask this question. It's usually yours is pretty obvious, but where does the name Toy Habits come from?
So it's funny. We originally I started the channel, with a guy named Larry, and we were trying to figure out like we wanted to do a YouTube channel, but we really wanted to figure out like a name that encapsulated, I guess, why we collect toys. And like I think we had a laundry list of like maybe 20 or 25 names, and then Toy Habits made the short list of 5, and we just kind of settled on it from there. But yeah, I think it might be pretty obvious based on the stuff that you see behind me or the stuff that we're always talking about. But it's something that's occupied my mind ever since I was a kid.
So,
And it's definitely a habit.
all right, so let me ask you this before we get into your life. Do you remember any of the other names that were thrown about?
I, I think I have a Google Doc of it, but I don't think I can remember off the top of my
Oh
head.
man, 'cause that would be awesome.
Oh my god, it would be. I want to go look for that.
Well, if you have that on Toy Habits, I want to be on there so I can hear it and tell you if any of them were better than Toy
Oh,
Habits.
I just found it.
Oh, great.
Okay, we got Retro Radio. This is it's quite a long list. Retro Toys with the Boys, the Auction Block, Toy Rehab, Toy Tirade.
Toy Rehab isn't bad because
No,
none of us want to be in rehab.
no,
So-
no, I think that's why. I think that's why we. I think that's why we nixed that one. Toy Hab was on the short list, so that was interesting because I think that ultimately became Toy Habits. What else was on here? Kicking It Old School, Collector's Kingdom. I'm just going down. Council of the Toy Elders. I think I was channeling Lord of the Rings there. Toys of Our Lives.
Oh, I like that one.
The Toy Connection. This is before we knew of Ken, and Toy Connections, but
Who cares about Ken? Screw Ken.
anyways, those were the list. Yeah, the list is pretty long, so I just named a few.
That
Retro.
is awesome. I think sometimes people overthink their name
Yeah,
when it's like it should be pretty cut and dry, right to what the point of what your channel is. It doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes I think people really overthink it. So,
yeah.
But before we get into your life, let's say hi to the chat really quick. We have Johnny Reno, who is in the house, great customizer. We have one of my moderators, Action Figs, Ed, Jay Astro, who just got one of my stickers today and already posted on it. So if you get one of my stickers, please post it and tag me in it. I love self-promotion. We have Cliff Ferguson is in the house. Bees Battleground, my nemesis. 3-star draw, Mr. Mad Gus is in the house. Son of a Crayon Slayer. We already said hi to Daniel Heron. Graf is in the house. GI Bro, the man with the best arms in toys. Mental Biz. I love that name. Matthew Matson, my first moderator, is here. Cobweb Collector, who I believe you are pretty familiar with.
Yep.
Ray Black and PNC. More will show up, I'm sure. So
Yeah, there's a couple Toy Habits crew members in the chat, so they're
well,
always
good.
fun.
I like seeing them. Everyone except for the one with the super chat. I've seen in my at some point in my chat. So there's a lot of crossover. But I'll tell you what, if I go in your chat, I see a lot of people that are that I've never seen over in mine. Geek Dead Life is like that. I would say Toy Anxiety, but I haven't watched Toy Anxiety in a little while. Once you start to get to know all these people and you realize they're going opposite and you're friends with some of them, you tend to watch their stuff. And there's so many hours in a day. I watch YouTube all the time, but I cannot watch toy stuff all day.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of like murder crime stuff.
So does my wife.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the only man that does.
I watch it because she watches it, so you and I can commit.
Strange Dog comic stuff, I'm gonna guess is from yours. I believe I've seen him before. But that and
I
then
don't know. And this guy, I have no idea. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, he's a Lego channel.
The Brick is actually somebody that I met in person. We actually live about 45 minutes away from each other, so we've
I've
hung
seen
out
the pictures.
a couple times. Yeah, it's fun. So yeah, I'm glad to meet him. He's a cool guy.
I really wish he would have went to Joe Fest because that would have been great to meet him.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I seriously was thinking about going to Joe Fest last minute, but the tickets were super expensive. But I definitely want to go at some
You need
point.
to go next year. It was
Would you recommend it?
seriously one of the best weekends of my life.
Oh,
It was so much like, and I don't know if something could top this year, only because I met some people for a short bit at PowerCon.
Mm.
because I drove in and drove out. But this was spending 4 days, well, 5 days if you count the morning, just you know where to go. Almost everyone's in that hotel, and just meeting so many people, like we said earlier, that you've gotten to know. That it was great. And you don't think you're not doing anything. You're hanging out in the lobby till 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you go to bed. You're back to your hotel room, which is in where you're at, and then you wake up and you go to the show. And it's even better when you just have that pass, and you don't have to wait with the common people to get inside. You just give me 1 second here. Gotta stop my camera really quick. Not going anywhere, but some things you don't do on camera. It was nothing dirty, guys. You guys have the worst. You guys are the worst. All right. So let's just start off. Do you mind me asking how old you are?
I am 48 going on 49 in September.
That's how numbers work.
Yep. How life works.
So we are in the exact same. Brick pretty much nailed it. I just haven't. You ever get that itch in your nose, and no matter what you do, it won't go. It won't go away. So I just have an itch, and it's driving me nuts.
Bodily functions are fun.
No one has to see. Like, no one's seeing the lower half. All right, I might not even be wearing pants. Matter of fact, Michael was like totally shocked when we were backstage, and he's like, "Hey, can you at least stop the camera, or at least wear some underwear?" I was like,
Don't
"Hey,
get up."
All right, quickly here. All right, so we're the same age. I'll be 49 in December. So you were 1 grade ahead of me because I just missed that cutoff.
I did kindergarten twice, so I think we were probably in the
so we
same
both
grade.
graduated in 94.
Yep.
Wow. It takes a lot to fail kindergarten.
It does. It really does. And I think I just had toys on the brain, or just like too much nap time or something. But my parents held me back for some reason. But I'm glad they did, because I don't know. Maybe my life would have turned out differently if they did, and so that's really interesting to think about. So, but I've been super happy with my life so far. So, I'm glad they did.
So, all right. So we're the same age. You were born in 75. How was your family life? Did your parents together? Did you have siblings?
Yeah. So I'm the youngest of 3. My parents are still together. I think they just celebrated their 56th wedding anniversary. It's their anniversary 7-Eleven, just like the convenience store chain. So it's really easy to remember. And family life was good. My dad worked for Chevron for all of his life, and he tried to put us in cities or towns that were good for us to grow up in. And so we spent, I was born in the Bay Area, but then we moved down to Southern California. So he worked at the El Segundo refinery down in Chevron. And so I spent a lot of my younger years down in Southern California till about age 7. And then he got transferred up to the Bay Area again. And he worked in the San Ramon Chevron office, the Richmond office, the San Francisco office. But he put us in a town that I really didn't appreciate as a kid, but I appreciate it now. It's a town called Moraga. It's really there's really not much to do there. There was a bowling alley there, and there was a baseball card shop and a CD store. So that was fun. But, the town that was down the road, had the round table with the arcade games and stuff like that, but it was not bikeable. But I had a good childhood growing up. And there's really nothing that I, kind of remember from my childhood that I didn't like. My having 2 older brothers, I would watch them just get into cats and dog fights with my parents. And I think as a kid, my older brother was 6 years older than me. My older one was 4. I was like, I don't want to get in those fights. And so I would do a lot of observing and saying okay, how can I not get into that situation? So apparently I was so good as a kid that my parents, I found this out later as an adult, that they called me the grandchild. I
I feel
didn't do anything bad.
I feel like that's the story of my youngest, that she's watched her older brother, my son, and her mom's son get in fights with us, that she just sits there and is like, what are you doing? Like, why are you fighting?
Yeah.
And I think cat fights are like the perfect way to explain it.
Yeah.
All right. So you got two older brothers.
Yeah.
How much older are they?
So the oldest one is 6 years older. He's actually the one that made the Toy Habits theme song.
We're gonna talk
He's
about
he's a music producer. Love him to death. The other one is 4 years older than me. He lives with his family in Israel right now, and so yeah, it was interesting. I wasn't super close with my older brother, the oldest one, until we were adults, because we never really saw each other. Like when I was in high school, he was going off to college, and so he started his life. I was much closer to my middle brother just because he also went to Sacramento State, which was like an hour and a half away from where we lived, and so he would come home on the weekends. We would play Sega and Nintendo, and kind of bond that way.
All right. So you have two older brothers, but they sound like they're much older.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not much older, but 4 years is huge when you're 5 and one's 9, and the other one would have been. I can't do math. I should have been held back in kindergarten.
Math is hard.
Math is hard. Wait till you hear me read. All right. So, do you remember like the first toys you really played with as a kid? I know around this age, it's a lot of adventure people. I remember Lone Ranger and Tonto. So, do you remember like the first toys that you gravitated to, that you played with?
Yeah, and it's funny because my wife's recently just had this pop up on her Instagram feed, but I was really into Matchbox cars and that Matchbox Garage. Like that was the jam back then. Like that was my first introduction. It's like a 3-year-old. What else are you gonna do, right? You're into, cars are cool. You can kind of it sounds silly, like thinking back at, it's like, oh, let's park the garage, let's send it through the car wash. But
you're talking about the one that folded up.
I don't know if it folded up or not, but maybe it did. Who knows? It never got folded up in my house because it was just out all the time.
I had two different ones, and one was like that like beige, I think, and the car would go all the way down.
Yeah,
it had the car wash, and it folded up, and I would take it to my grandmother's. So there was two different ones, and I forget, but you could just take one, you put all the cars in it. Anytime you had a friend that had a carpet that had a road on it, like all you want to do is play cars on it, because it's so little that you never have to have a figure come out. No one's killing each other. You're just racing your cars.
Yeah, that was really fun. There's a couple that I remember pretty dearly. There was like a Tonka yellow, like construction, like there was a dump truck and it went around a track, and it was like automated, not like a racetrack, but it would kind of go through this thing where it would load the truck, it would dump the truck, and it would just kind of do these cool things.
Clint says for me to get a calculator. The Matchbox service station, none of your business saying.
Yeah.
I had two of them because I remember that one. Like I said, I think it was like a beige, but there was another one that was white. I remember the car wash, and I'd always want to get it wet, and my parents would be like, "No, you cannot," because it had the little sponges. I think they knew what it was gonna do.
Mold. Like, what's that smell?
And I think Sergeant Reds actually just sold one not too long ago. They had it posted on their Instagram, and I just went, oh my god, that was so much fun. So maybe. Do you have Graf in yours?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He's one of our. He's one of our addicts. So he's super. He's hilarious.
Wait,
in
wait, wait.
person and also in the chat.
Well, then why aren't you a channel member here, Graph? This guy, he comes in and I would say he wins the battle many, many times in
He's
the
funny.
comments. He's he's kind of like the Chaz the Guru,
Yes.
who just at the moment he sees the memes, like he has them out. All right, so you were into cars. I think we all were. I remember having my dad. I had all the Matchbox cars and had a certificate that said that we had them all. There were only like 16 of them. It was kind of crazy. He must have got a certificate of something else because there was always way more than that. But because he always had a certificate he was so proud of. So do you remember like the first action figures or toys you really fell in love with?
Yes. Yeah. So I think I remember my dad taking, well, I don't remember this, but I was in a baby carrier at the first Star Wars movie. So I was too young to like actually play with those action figures. But the action figures that I truly remember getting, and this was, I grew up Jewish and my family celebrated Hanukkah, and my dad basically got me a ton of like Masters of the Universe action figures in '83. And those were the things that I immediately fell in love with. I was just enthralled with the line, and I remember seeing them in Toys R Us and not really knowing like what they were, where they came from, and I was like, these are freaking cool.
Well, so you're saying in 80, like that was when you first, like the first line you really fell in love with?
Yeah. So like between, what was I, 8 at the time or something, like maybe it was 82 or 83, but it wasn't until Return of the Jedi where I started collecting like Star Wars toys, and it wasn't until maybe 84 or 85 where I started collecting G.I. Joe. So it kind of went into a progression, and it started with Masters of the Universe. I think it ended with Mask, but I still collected like G.I. Joe and Star Wars, off and on throughout the mid 80s to the late 80s. But yeah, Masters of the Universe are the first action figures that I remember. We did have a like Atari, so I did play a lot of video games back then, and we had a ColecoVision, if you remember that. My friend next door had an Intellivision, and so
I remember that. Yeah,
a lot of time was occupied not with action figures but with video games at a really young age, because my older brothers would get these things and I'd be like, what's this? This is so cool.
Jay Astro says all the shipwrecks and all the Matchbox cars. Because according to everyone, I had all of the Matchbox cars, or I mean, all of the shipwrecks. That's why no one else could get them, because my dad bought me all of them for my aircraft carrier. So don't tell me you've never heard the story. You must have heard the flag story.
No.
Oh my gosh. Do you want to hear the flag story?
I would love to. I
love the flag story. No one else likes the flag story because they've heard it so many times.
I've never heard
quickly was I had Patrick Strackel and Cobra Commander. I got the game with Motu as well. Motu was a gateway drug.
It totally was.
I can't believe you never heard this. This isn't supposed to be about me, but it's supposed to be about you, but you never heard it. And like everybody drink. All right. Is Ed? No, right? No. How many seamen does the flag take? All right. So I was fairly spoiled, but I only really collected G.I. Joe. I had a lot of other things. So for Christmas, you remember how the G.I. Joes or Star Wars or whatever, like you could, if your parents put them back to back, they could wrap them, and then there'd be two figures in it. You knew exactly that they were either G.I. Joe figures, Star Wars, whatever. So I remember it's Christmas morning, and I open up a pack. I know they're G.I. Joe, so I open them up. It's 2 shipwrecks. Now, I already have a shipwreck. I don't even like shipwreck, but now I have 2 more. All right. Put it aside. I grab the net. Again, I know what these things are. I grab another one. It's 2 more shipwrecks. So now I have 4 brand new shipwrecks, and I have another one that I don't even like. Grab another pack. 2 more shipwrecks. So I'm sitting here with 6 brand new shipwrecks. One, I grab another one, open 8 shipwrecks. I already have one. And I'm like, thank you. Like, I mean, I don't know what to say. And if looks could kill, my mom would have just blasted a hole right through my dad because she had a death stare on him. And then he got up and left. And so I opened a few more things, and she goes, "Hey, why don't you go downstairs?" And I go downstairs, and there's the flag. It's in the box. He didn't open it. So the flag in the box, right? My mom had figured opening all those shipwrecks, I would have realized what was coming next. I was supposed to get those after. Well, my dad was a sailor, and he thought if you get an aircraft carrier, you have to have sailors for it. So that was all the sail. So now I have 9 shipwrecks. And I don't even like shipwreck. The worst thing about it is, like you can't like change the head because you don't. It doesn't have a C cap form, right?
Yeah.
And that everyone's heard it 100 times. I can't believe you never heard it. Brick says it's actually a wonderful story. It is, and it's one of those things. And I still have my flag. Like, I have my childhood flag. I have my childhood Terradrome, Tomahawk. I have all kinds. Viper Scout just joined in here. We have Bad Wolf Custom Airbrushing and Decals, 1979 Hot Wheel Service Center, beige foldable. I love when people are behind in the chat and because they're watching late. That's always my favorite. Like, we're in the future, guy. Yes, but that is Action Face says, tell the rest of the story about your dad. What's the rest of the story about my dad?
Like, interesting.
I think so. Last year when Shipwreck came up for Classified, I found one right around his birthday and got it for him.
Oh,
and my dad could care less about toys. He doesn't care. He collects John Wayne. But I'm watching him open this up, and he's like getting the stuff out, and he told one of the other kids, the stepkids or whatever, go grab a bag. And I'm like, no, everything fits on him, Dad. Everything. So it was really cool to watch him. He doesn't care, but he's very proud of being a sailor. If it was John Wayne, it would have been even better. But anyway, enough about me. Like, it's not supposed to be about me.
That's a cool story, and I'm happy to hear that you still have it because that would be a tragedy. So this is what, like, the flag came out in what, 87?
85.
85? Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was 85. I think it was. So every time that meme goes around, like, this is the 31st year that I'm not getting the flag, I'm like, well, this is like the 30th year of not getting the flag either. And they're like, but you got one. I'm like, yeah, but I haven't got one every year. I only got it that one year.
Right.
Okay. Now my kid's being loud. All right. So Motu is what really got you into. I don't like saying collecting because we weren't collecting back then. We were playing with toys.
Yeah.
The fact that any of my G.I. Joe stuff survived blows me away. And it's the only stuff that I still have. I don't know what happened to my Motu stuff, Transformers, G.I. Joe. I said, don't get rid of it, Dad. That's so. But you said that led you into other toys. So what other things did you really get into as a kid?
Oh yeah, I fully got into G.I. Joe, the action figures, the vehicles, and I would have all out wars in the family room, in the house that I spent most of my time growing up with. So there are a few things that remind me of that time. The surveillance port, the Cobra bunker. There was the Wolverine. So what I would do is I would position Cobra on one side of the family room and Joe's on the other. And so, like, the Wolverine would fire a rocket over into the Cobra base, and that would start the whole war. And so I would be basically, as a kid, going back and forth with rocket firing, missile blast or whatever, and just like creating this whole battle scene and just enjoying the heck out of it. And every night that I would do this, it'd be different. Like I wouldn't recreate the same battle scene. And so, the snake armor and the cobra bat were always like the mainstays in the battles because they were, robots, and they didn't die in my head canon. And so they could get their arms blown off, and they could survive. And the bat would always be the one that would like be walking over into the GI Joe base and like just obliterating everybody with like fire coming out of his blaster cannon.
I don't think all these episodes that I've done, I don't think anyone's gotten that in depth in like explaining how much they played with it. I mean, I think we all played, and I feel like the same way. Like I remember I spent more time setting up a base, and then in 30 minutes it's gone.
Yeah,
and I would spend 8 hours. I would take string and make it that it's laser wire, and then I'm stepping over it. And mind you, I'm only 5'4" on a good day now.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine it was that high back.
No, but I think that was the line that really like helped to spark my imagination and creativity with just playing with toys, and the fact that there were so many individual interesting characters that were of different colors. And like Blowtorch is my favorite GI Joe of all time. It's like the red and yellow or orange and yellow color scheme. And just he just looked cool. So like he would be the one that would also, combat the bat with fire because he could fight fire with fire.
Nanyo Biz says, "Got to use dental floss as high wire." I never thought about that.
Or tripwire.
And then Aaron E. Nichols, I don't think I ever let any of my figures die. When I played with them, I was a big fan of using the bat also. Aaron, I don't believe I've ever seen you here, so welcome here. Is he someone from your channel?
I don't know. I know an Aaron, but I don't know if he goes by Aaron E. Nichols. So if
This is
you are
Aaron too.
yeah,
Toy samples.
know him.
So a funny story that I've actually never told. The kid that I first started playing G.I. Joe with, Jeff Faber, he never killed anyone. Everyone got stunned. And he always had shields, and I never did. And it got really frustrating. And I ended up meeting my best friend through childhood, Joe. And I remember the first time we played, and I hit one of his guys, and I'm like, "Oh, I stunned your guy." And he's like, "What do you mean stunned? He's dead." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, they get shot, they get killed." And I was like, "Oh, so I can never play with Jeff again because I'm like, no, they have to die." But then you watch the cartoon and you realize no one died.
Yeah, and I think that's why I did it, because I heavily watched the cartoon when it came on, and I was like, there's a hail of laser fire going on and nobody's getting killed. I'm like, I don't wish death upon anyone, but I wanted some realism as a kid.
but eventually it's going to happen.
Right.
But hey, the A-Team never killed anyone either, and they were firing real bullets. So there's that.
Right.
Daredevil Dave, nice to have you here. All right, so you got into G.I. Joe. What else was there anything else that you had a big collection of?
Oh my gosh. Mask, the Mobile Armored Strike Command. You can see them back here and down here. I have the entire collection, including the Laser Command. I just completed that collection this year. I think that was, if I were to rank them, I would say G.I. Joe Mask over Motu by far, as a kid. There was something about the Mask toys that, even though it was vehicles that transformed into other vehicles, there was something just really cool about it. I like the small scale of the figures. And this is really where I remember like displaying these toys and just being so proud of them. So like when I had growing up, I had a room with 2 twin beds. I would basically put out all my Mask toys and I would arrange my closet like you would arrange your toy shelf as an adult right now. And it was super weird. I didn't know why I was doing it, but for some reason, I just wanted to see these things on display if I wasn't playing with them. And so was super into the cartoon and super into the toys. And we had a Long's Drugs, if you remember, back in the day, that pharmacy chain. I don't know if they extended to other parts of the country.
Never had that here in Michigan that I can remember.
They ultimately got bought by CVS, but they sold the mass toys in there. And so they were really easy for me to get a hold of. And so, geez, I'm trying to think when they came out in 85? And I was we were 10, right? So this was, I started working at age 11. And so I had disposable income at age 11. And so baseball cards. I mean, this opened the door. Baseball cards, toys, you name it.
I think Ed says it here. Michael had the plastic sickness long before he even knew.
I think so. Jeez, yeah, and it's so weird just to think back and look at it, because I can imagine, like I can think about my room. Like I know what color the bedspreads are. I know exactly how I arrange the toys. I remember cleaning out my closet and making the shelves just barren so I could put these mass toys in there.
So, did you have a lot of G.I. Joe stuff?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I had a ton of action figures. My parents got me the Sky Striker. They got me a ton of vehicles.
Did you have the bridge layer?
I did. Yeah, I had the bridge
Okay.
layer. Yeah.
I gotta ask. You had two twin beds. Did you ever push them close enough to use the bridge layer?
Oh my gosh, no. I did not.
Right now, you're like, oh my god, I just missed out on like.
Where's the time machine? Like we don't.
You probably were too small. You couldn't push the bed anyway.
I know, probably not. We have two twin beds in our guest room. I'm gonna take my bridge layer and try that after.
I tried using that bridge layer on everything because I still have my original bridge layer, toll booth, and his sledgehammer. I don't know how those all survived. I know it's my original too because I have somehow I get green paint on it from green spray paint and I hit it. I tried using that on anything and it always sucked because that bridge was only like this long. It wasn't that long. Like half the tanks could have driven over it anyway.
Oh my gosh. I had the APC. Oh my gosh. So our backyard was amazing growing up because we had a hot tub and we had a area with like huge, rocks and pebbles. And then we had this huge back hill that, nothing, you couldn't walk down there. It was really steep. I don't know why they had houses with like such huge back hills, but it basically leveled off, for maybe like 10 feet at the bottom. So I would also use the backyard to play with the G.I. Joes too. So I would have like Alpine rappelling off a rock. And so I'd set up these scenes in the backyard too. Sometimes I would make adventures down the back hill. And that's when I first got exposed to Poison Oak at the time.
Ooh, man.
That was bad.
Oh, Allison Troy has joined us.
Allison.
Allison.
I do love Allison. Yeah, she appeared on one of our episodes really early on in the channel, and so that was a hoot. So got to know her very early. Love her.
Allison has been very, especially when I was still growing, talking to her, throwing some ideas at me, and she's great. I mean, I hate the fact that when she's on stream, we only see her forehead, but hey, you know what? We all have different styles of how we.
It's all good. Everybody's different.
All right. So, as a kid, we normally go into middle school. Did you still play with toys, buy toys when you're going into middle school? Because middle school to high school is where, like middle school, I feel like that's when you're still playing with them, but you don't let anyone know because it's quirky. In actuality, every kid is doing the exact same thing you are, just behind closed doors.
Yeah. So in elementary school, it was a very drastic, stark difference. So I remember in 5th grade, like everybody would bring their G.I. Joes and Transformers and we would play in the schoolyard. Once middle school hit, nobody did that. And so I think I took a I took a very long break from middle school up until the year 2001. With basically taking a break from toys at that point, and I got into other stuff. I was a professional bowler when I was a youth. I was California state champion.
We're gonna get into that one.
Oh, all right.
But
Yeah,
hold on.
so I did a lot of other things.
Allison said some dude told me I had too much forehead to be on the internet, so I'm making sure I'm too much for the bro. Never let it be said I don't think of the dudes. And that's not the first time she's told me that. So
That's hilarious.
Machine Man has joined us, and Nuabi, I think I'm saying that right, and Toyamic Displays. Thank you guys for joining. Hit that like button if you guys haven't. I know I only see 4, but I know there's more because YouTube doesn't update that. And I didn't say hi to Gun Bunny Customs. This guy does some awesome stuff. All right. So you took a break. I didn't really collect, but as a skateboarder, like I was skateboarding during a time when it was dead. Especially you can only imagine here in Michigan. But it was dead everywhere. I didn't care. I've never given 2 shits what someone cares. So I would always have G.I. Joes. I had them hung in my bedroom because I lived in the basement. And I'd always had my box of figures somewhere. But you go into high school, you're not collecting. Did you go into comics? And I see a lot of people, they go to comics because it's something they're reading, but it's still collecting. And it's easier to get away with.
Yeah, it was none of that. I was playing, I think, video games the whole friggin' time.
Okay.
It was from the introduction of the NES, and then it was downhill from there. So it was basically most of my time spent was, I'd come home after school, I'd fire up the Nintendo, and I don't really know where the time would go. That's where my other love of the Legend of Zelda, came to me as a adolescent. So there's a lot of things that I don't really talk about a lot, and that's one of my other loves that people might notice some of the statues that I have in my background that are Legend of Zelda, but I don't actually really talk about it very much because there's not really that much Legend of Zelda context that comes up in Toy Talk.
Well, you need to go back and watch PNC's episode. I think it's like the 4th or 5th episode. I really enjoyed having him on because he had this whole story of he has little arcade games. He has all this. He collects a lot of the video games, and I'm like, that's what I want. I don't want to talk toys all the time because we have lives. Well, some of us do. I feel like all I do is create content. I go to work, I come home and create content. All right. So you get into high school. What do you start doing? You're not playing with toys. We're in that teen years.
So I started working at a bowling alley at age 11. I got paid under the table. And so my weekends and sometimes weekdays were spent at the bowling alley. And so that I did that from 11 to 18. And so a lot of my time in high school was spent at the bowling alley, but I also took up gymnastics when I was age 14. And so I was a bowler and a gymnast, which was not, I don't know, people weren't very kind to me in high school for being a bowler and a gymnast. Let me tell you, but I was like, I loved it and I couldn't care less.
All right. Well, I took gymnastics in high school, actually in school. So it wasn't at a gymnastics place. Although I recently, in the past 15 years, because of my kids, I worked at a gymnastics place. We learned how to do backflips off walls, anything that you could do, backflips off people, anything that you could do. I did a backflip on stage at commencements. I wish I don't have a VCR, but I have the video of it.
Oh, cool.
And my cap stays on and everything.
Oh my gosh.
because my dad ordered it. It was too small, so it was like it suctioned to my head. Eventually, I have to get a VCR, get the tape out, just transfer it, because all you need is that like 2 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
Because commencements are the boringest things in the world. I know because I just went to one not too long ago.
Yeah.
So
It's great for your child for like the 20 seconds that they walk on stage, but like the other 4 hours, I'm like, come on.
oh, dude, ours was 3 hours because we had, I think, 600 or 700 kids in our class.
Yep.
And not to pat myself on the back, the only exciting thing was when I did a backflip. It was the only exciting thing because there's nothing exciting during a commencement speech or commencement, especially with that many people just walking across stage. Matter of fact, I was in Detroit today and I drove by and I'm like, hey, there's a Masonic temple. I did a backflip in there. And I'm like, I did a backflip all around because you had to use a lot of strength because with that robe, there was a lot of wind resistance.
Yes.
So it was all power. All right. So you're a bowling gymnast.
I was a bowling gymnast. Yep.
Now, I'm going to quickly touch on the gymnastics. Now,
Okay.
did you do like competitions or anything, or were you just?
I did, yeah. So I went to my middle brother used to compete for Sac State, so I was like, oh my gosh, like so I saw him doing gymnastics, and I was like, this is cool. I want to do it, and so I went to a gymnastics club that was a half an hour away from the house, and it was pretty funny because the boys team that I joined, like I think I was 14 at the time, and I was amongst like 7 and 8 year olds. It was the funniest thing, but I picked it up really, really fast. And so one of the coaches there was like, hey, would you like to join the competitive team? And I was like, okay. So I did all of the events. And so we traveled to, just different cities that were local ish, they were maybe like as far as 2 hours away. And so it was really fun to do that. It was a good escape from high school, the bowling alley. And then I think once I got pretty decent at doing gymnastics, I also started coaching a little boys team of my own too. So then I started my second job in high school as a gymnastics coach while I was working at the bowling alley.
Cobb says, I imagine Lauren doing beautiful choreography with the ribbon.
Oh, yes.
Again, we just did gymnastics.
That was rhythmic gymnastics.
we did it it was a high school class, so we didn't have to do gym because we were skateboarders. So we didn't play basketball. We didn't do any of that. And one of my good friends, well, he wasn't a good friend at the time. He was someone he was a senior, another skateboarder, and I met him when I got there, and he was like, "No, you just take gymnastics. That way you never have to take basketball, never have to do sports." I was anti-sport at the time because I was a skateboarder, right? That's what we did. All right. So you work at gymnastics, and I worked at a gymnastics place, like I said, but recently. It was only because I could, like, the guy had heard, and he basically wanted me just to help the young boys that they. Like, I hate saying that, man. I feel like I'm fucking Michael Jackson. Nothing.
Yes.
Nothing inappropriate like that.
I get it.
You can't say what not. Okay. So let's talk about this bowling thing because you bring up I was a bowling champion. So I gotta hear.
Yeah, so I as a kid, I spent summers back in New Jersey, and this was back when you could just send a kid.
Why were you in New Jersey?
So my family they were from the East Coast, and they were the only ones to move out to the West Coast. So like all my grandparents, all my extended family were in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And so whenever I wanted to go see them, I'd have to go fly across the country. And this is back when you could just send a kid on a plane and you just basically get met by the person picking you up, and they pick you up and you go do your thing and you end up back at home a month and a half later. But so my grandfather used to take me bowling every day. And so that's where I really fell in love with the sport. And so I started going to the local bowling alley when I was, I don't know, 7, 8. And then at 9, I joined the bowling league and just really had a good time. Like I met new people and it was just really a fun way for me to just have something to do after school, like on Fridays. We got the cool t-shirts and the bowling shoes and all that stuff. And so I, I, I love bowling. I don't know why. I love the heck out of the sport. And so I spent all my time at the bowling alley. That's why I worked there, because I spent like, if I wasn't playing arcade games there, I was bowling. And so that's what I would do in a lot of my off time. But so I spent summers in New Jersey from 7 to 15, I think, or 6 to 15. And I would bowl there. I would come back, and bowl in the regular time. And so when I was 13, there was a tournament, and it was a California State Regional Championship. And so I did really well. I qualified for the state championship there, and I ended up winning first place as a 13-year-old for the whole state of California. It's like,
All right. So do you still bowl?
I don't. I still have my bowling balls. I remember to put the bowling in front of the balls. I can see you laughing, but
this chat is bad.
I know, right?
A lot of them are probably like, he's married, he doesn't have balls anymore.
I know, right? But actually, no. When you're a tournament bowler, you have 2 balls. You have 2 bowling balls, one for dry lane and one for oily lane. I don't know if you knew that, but no, I still have my bowling balls, and I go bowling every once in a while. I have a lot of like physical limitations at the moment, or just stemming from an incident back in 2016, and so it's hard for me to do that still.
All right. So how many 300 games have you bowled?
0.
Really?
Yeah. The closest I came was a 266. I biffed a frame. I think it was like the second to the last frame or something. I had all strikes. The nerves got me, and yeah, I ended up with I think an open frame and all strikes got me a 266.
Oh,
and
wow.
it never came close to a 300 at all after that. But I was good at picking up spares, and so spares is where you get your higher score from if you can't do strikes.
Bowling has the hardest math ever known to mankind.
Yeah.
Like, that, like, if you bowl a strike, you get 10.
Yeah, I could never. I've always had computers score for me because I never learned how to score myself. This is something I never learned. Sadly, I just didn't do it, and I never learned it. But all of the bowling alleys that I went to had electronic scoring machines. Maybe I guess when my grandfather would keep score for me, because they didn't have electronic scorekeepers. I think it is.
So how long did you bowl for? Like,
I bowled from. I took it up around age 6, and I stopped at 18. And then, like, after 18, I would bowl like just for fun with friends.
Okay. Like so you never really did it afterwards, like.
No, I mean, I guess I could have gone into professional bowling, but that never even crossed my mind. It was so weird. Like I was doing gymnastics, I was doing bowling. The funny thing is, my friend who, at the gymnastics place, we both went to the same school. She got a scholarship for gymnastics, but they didn't have a men's team. They only had a women's team. So I had to hang up my gymnastics career when I went to college. Or else if they had a men's team, I totally would have done it.
Okay, so you seem fairly athletic. And if you're doing gymnastics, you're fairly athletic, right? You live in California, right?
Yep.
You see where I'm going, right? You never got into skateboarding?
I did. So my skateboarding career didn't last very long because I wasn't super coordinated just standing on a skateboard. Like I could kneeboard the heck out of that skateboard, but I was falling off right and left. I guess this is why guys don't do the balance beam. I guess for other reasons too, that are between the legs. But
what's funny is that my daughter was doing gymnastics up to a couple years ago, and she never wanted to be on the team, but she got to the point where she was in like the advanced rec class, but everyone was younger than her. And I remember I asked them, I said, well, how long can she be in it? And they go, we just had someone that was 18. She just went off to college. She just liked doing gymnastics, but she didn't want to be on team. But Olivia got to the point where she was just like, I don't want to be around all these little kids anymore. And it sucks because she really loved it. But when she was little, they just had like little events, right? And we'd go from one stage to another. And I remember I'm sitting there, and I worked at the place, but I'm not working then. I'm watching. And I see like the balance beam, right? And they do the little things on the balance beam. Then they go over to uneven bars, and it's a round bar. And I'm like, man, if they didn't have mats and they had to land on concrete, they'd fall one time and never do this again.
Right.
And then I'm looking at like the pommel horse. I'm looking at the beam, which is a flat bar. The bars are around. And I'm like, this is all shit that we do on our skateboards, and we eat it. So maybe they would still do it if there weren't mats. Or maybe we're just the dumb ones.
Yeah.
Like we would see something like that and be like, I can grind that.
It's funny that you bring up skateboarding because our bowling alley they had this space, and there were many businesses that occupied this space. The owners would rent it out, and it was a magic shop once, it was something else, and it was also a skateboard shop. So a lot of the, that's where I kind of like was, oh, skateboarding could be cool. They had lots of cool designs, lots of cool skateboards. So I bought a skateboard from there and just quickly learned that skateboarding was not for me.
Clint says the Iron Cross always got me on the rings.
Yeah, I never could do that.
You could do an Iron Cross.
My brother could, and he could hold it for like 5 or 6 seconds. Like, and it takes a long time to learn that stuff. Like you mentioned,
I thought you were going to say 5 or 6 minutes. I'm like, you're a lying son of a bitch, all right?
No, like the pommel horse took me a year to learn how to go around, and the way that you learn how to do it is you practice your circles on this thing called the mushroom, because it looks like a mushroom, and you graduate to the pommel horse, and then that's where you learn, like, oh, if you don't lift your legs, you run into it and you fall over and you hit the floor.
You see, I never learned any of that. I learned how to do backflips, back handsprings, round off back tucks, stuff like that. It's stuff that you like, people flipping you, backflips off the wall. Everyone always thought that was very impressive, but it's kind of like, dude, you're stepping up like 3 or 4 feet. It's so easy because you're already you're that much higher. All right. So no skateboarding, breaks my heart, but that's okay. Not everyone can skateboard. I look at like gymnasts, especially like the males, as someone who worked out for many, many years. Those guys, hardly any of them ever lift a weight, and they're just in the most amazing shape.
Yeah.
Because all that body weight and like an Iron Cross, like that is so much strength.
Oh, it totally is. Yeah, that was the best part of doing gymnastics. Like you got seriously cut, and like our workouts were 3 or 4 days a week for 3 or 4 hours straight. And
you
got cut, you got ripped, and I was always the one, and so that trained you for like the PE class where they're like, oh, go from the bottom to of the rope to the top of the gym ceiling, which was like 25 feet or something like that. You could get like, I didn't even need to use my legs. I was just like hand over hand and be up and down. Bar dips. I was like, okay, when do you want me to stop?
Bad Wolf Custom says, man, America is so different than Canada. Half the year our skateboards have sled dogs. Yes and no. Hey, Todd, it depends on what you're training for. If you want to be a big giant bodybuilder, power lifter, you don't need calisthenics. As you get older, you're kind of like, hey, calisthenics aren't the worst things in the world.
Yeah, got to keep the ticker going.
All right, so you go through high school, you're this badass bowler, probably got you all the babes.
Oh yeah, so many babes. Actually, I did see like a lot of my friends and just everybody that went to the high school went to the bowling alley, and I forget who made this comment earlier up in the chat, but it's like the saddest story that I have about the bowling alley is when I took my son when he was like 5. I was like, oh, I live like 40 minutes away from where I grew up. I'm like, oh, let's go see where daddy used to work. Let's go see his town, blah, blah, blah. I drive him up there and I'm telling him like all about the bowling alley and all this stuff. And we drive up there and it's an empty lot. And I'm like, I was crushed. I was seriously like going to break down and cry. I spent so much time there and it was gone.
I mean, for me, like the skate shop that I worked at until it went out of business, and the lady, she was an older lady. Her sons gave it to her because they owned a racing shop. She only kept it open for us, and I worked there. I came back there, and when she closed, I stayed till they closed, and I would always look at it when I'm driving by. And I'm driving to a job, and I look over, and I always look over into the suite. I think like it's going to be like 20, 25 years ago, and it's like magically going to be there. I'm going to pull in there and see her. And I look over, and I see Funko Pops collectibles. It's called My Pops. I'm like, so I go do the job. It's the end of the day. I swing in there, and my daughter loves Funko Pops. And my son had a couple, and I had just told them nothing else till Christmas. But of course, I walk in here, and even though it's not skateboarding, it's still collectibles and something in what I do. And I'm talking to the guy, and you're looking around. I mean, it's obviously way different because it's 25 years later, if not longer. So of course, I jump in the car, shoot on down, get my kids, and it's about a half hour away. Hey, we're going to go out to eat. Boom, shoot on back. They're like in heaven. I let them buy a couple things. Of course, I broke what I said. Nothing till Christmas. But
Never.
And it's one of the places I'm hoping to go in there and do this toy store series that I'm trying to work on.
Oh, cool.
Just because it means a lot to me. It's like the same place, exact same suite. And you kind of walk in, and it's like, hey, you stand behind that counter. The boards are on the wall. So it's kind of like what you said, except for mine wasn't an empty parking lot. But that even makes for like even a better story. That like you.
Yeah.
All right. So you graduate high school. I'm assuming you graduated.
Yes.
I actually made the mistake of saying that to someone, and like, I actually didn't graduate. I'm like,
You know what? School is not for everybody, and that's fine. Like, I think we're trained to say like, yes, you go to school, you go to college, whatever, but sometimes that's not in people's paths.
So, did you go off to college?
I did. So my dad was a chemical engineer. He kind of like drilled it in me that, I should go to school for some sort of engineering. Like I wasn't into chemistry. And so I went to school for mechanical engineering. I heard Oregon State had a wonderful mechanical engineering program. So that's why I went there for school. And 2 years into it, I was just hating it. And so I was just kind of forced with like a pivotal moment in my life of like, what the heck am I going to do like for a job or for a career and whatever. And so I just kind of took a look at the classes that I was doing well in, and I was doing well in like all my psychology classes, and I enjoyed them all. And this is actually where I met my wife. And so we were dating at the time. And so she really helped me figure out like what my path should be. She was really supportive, and I think like really, I don't want to say like advanced, but she wasn't like a normal, kid that you'd meet in college. Like she was really thinking about the future and just really pragmatic about like, like what do you enjoy? What classes do you do well in? So I found like I was doing well in my psychology classes. I took a shit ton of math, as a mechanical engineer. And so, it really didn't take much to get a statistics minor, which I could use for psychology and stuff like that. So I went off to school and ended up graduating with a psych degree, and also engaged to my wife that I'm currently married to now. So
Clint Jorgensen says, I remember when engineers just drove trains.
I love Clint. Yeah.
Jeff Morris says he's a mechanical engineer. I have
More-
I have bad things to say about engineers as a tech that works on copy machines. And I gotta say this: Speeded one McDysentery. Did I get it right, Ed? I can never get his name right. All right, so you went in to be an engineer, and it sounds like you changed that to psychology.
Yes.
All because the girl you were dating. I think we know that the only balls he has now are the bowling balls.
No
So
comment.
you never get like this in on Toy Habits. So
No.
this is what I love about this show.
This is great.
Um, so you switched to psychology. What is she doing? Like, what was she going to school for?
So she was going to school for she was a business major with a specialty in marketing. And so that's, and also she minored in Japanese for fun. Like she's American and just thought like, oh, it'd be cool to just learn Japanese. And so I'm like, that's cool. Something that I learned about her, when we first met, and I was like, that's interesting.
So this was at Oregon State, you said,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, is she from California also, or?
Yeah, it turns out that we were both Californians. We lived an hour and a half away from each other, and it was fun because when we got to come back home for breaks and stuff, I would basically just spend all break at her house, and my parents never saw me like ever because it's so funny because like my son just wrapped up his first year of college, and he has a summer job and stuff like that. So it's like he's here, but like he's gone for maybe 35 hours of the week.
That sounds amazing. A kid that graduated that has a job.
Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. Might have to figure that one out.
Well, he just wrapped up his freshman year and he just has a summer job. It's like
I don't care. It's a job.
Okay, all right.
it's a job. All right. Yeah. All right. So, did you guys both graduate from there?
We did. Yeah, we were both in the same class. We both graduated the same year. We ended up getting married a few months after we graduated, and I didn't really think of it at the time, but it's like, my parents were cool that her parents were freaking out. Like, I'm thinking back now, if like my son was like going to be like, oh, I'm getting married in a couple years, I'd be like, oh, wait.
Right out of college, you're like, you don't even know anything yet.
I know. So it was interesting because like we both didn't know anything, but we basically started to know things together, which was fun. So it's like, we're figuring ourselves out, but we're also figuring, us as individuals, but also us as a couple. So I thought that was really cool because like going through all of those times from, we got married at 22, and just going through all of those times of just like learning how to live with somebody. Like I've never lived with anyone ever in my life except for her, and neither did she. And so it was, I always say like we grew together and we ended up like, I think stronger together because we experienced all that stuff together. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know shit.
I'm still trying to figure out what I want.
I know, right?
It's clearly G.I. Joe figures. That's the problem. So I've been single for 8 years. All right. So wait, I would assume you graduated when 98?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it was 98. I applied to grad school because I think at the time I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I knew that if I wanted to make some actual money, I needed, kind of a higher level degree. And so I went to graduate school at the University of Pacific, which is in Stockton, California. Not a great place, but the school is gorgeous. And so I went there for a couple years, and I thought I was going to become some form of like psychologist or helping profession, but we got to try it out because we were supervised by a licensed psychologist. And I was like, oh crap, this is not for me. I was like, okay, now what am I going to do?
quickly. So Four Feather says, as an auto technician, I have some opinions as well of engineers. No offense, Jeff Morris. And Jeff says, thank you. We design things that way just to mess with you. Yeah, no. And I knew it. I deal with Japanese copiers. I guarantee you that they still hate the US. You guys can figure out what. But there's certain things that, and I believe engineers do this. I know we're off topic here, but hey, that's part of
All right.
the level. I believe engineers, when they redesign something, they take away something that everyone loves. So when they refresh it, they can just have a year off and be like, hey, look what we put in here to make it easier. And it's like, no, you took that away. You're just giving it back now because you needed a year off after you redesigned something. You're like, hey, well, this will be an easy refresh.
Yeah.
Jeff, can you confirm that one too? Okay, so we'll skip that. I did forget them. So California, no skateboarding. Punk,
Weird, huh?
punk rock. I mean,
No. And yeah, I don't know how you're gonna feel about this, but my favorite artist was Prince. At the time, I have an epic first concert. I went to see Purple Rain when I was 9. That was my first concert. So anyway, nope.
like everything that I wanted to be in California, like there you are, and none of it you do.
None of it. No. No punk rock. No skateboarding. No surfing.
You know what? Surfing never interested me because, well, first off, I'm in Michigan, so we have fresh water. We don't have waves, and also there's these things called sharks. And I'll go in an ocean, but I have a weird fear of a shark because you can't really fight them. Like you see those reels where someone's like, you just put your hand, if the shark comes to you, just put your hand on their nose and you push them away. Oh, there's all kinds of reels where like there's a diver or whatever, and the shark comes up and they just grab it. I'm like, no, the shark comes up that close. I'm just assuming I'm dead.
Yeah, they're gonna eat.
I'm gonna be eaten. All right, it's that simple. I don't think I'm gonna taste that good, but I don't think he really cares at that point.
No, you're part of the food chain at that point.
Yes, exactly. Great way to put it. All right, so graduate. You go to grad school. Did you go to grad school? Or
I did, yeah. So I was in a little bit of a conundrum because like now I'm like, okay, the thing that I thought I wanted to do, like I don't really want to do. And about 6 months before I was about to graduate, this was in like 99, 2000 timeframe. It was 2000. And one of my professors that he was into like biofeedback, and he's like, oh, have you heard of this field called usability? I was really into tech. I was really into computers, and he knew that I really liked that. Oh, jeez.
Mr. Mad Gus, I can see Michael with the tight pants, ruffle shirt, and a purple motorcycle.
Gonna purify myself in Lake Minnetonka. Sorry, it's a quote from Purple Rain. So he planted the seed of like, okay, there's this really burgeoning field called usability at the time. They now call it user experience research. And there was a guy who graduated from the program who went on to Microsoft Games usability. And so I was just doing like informational interviews, just finding out like, what the heck do you do as a usability engineer? And so I talked to this guy for like an hour, and it sounded really cool. It's like they get builds of games and they test it with people, and they figure out like what's a good experience, what's a bad experience. And kind of like your engineering story, like we as usability engineers, we try to make things better and try to combat the engineers who are trying to F things up all the time. But I really loved what he did. And so he put me in contact with the hiring manager for Microsoft Hotmail. Hotmail, at the time, right?
My ex still has the Hotmail account.
I still have a Hotmail account. I worked there for a year, but so I contact the hiring manager at Hotmail, and all I wanted to do was just find out more about what this field was, and had a great conversation. A month later, he calls me and is like, hey, we had a great conversation. Would you mind if, would you want to come down and interview for a contract position that I'm having? Like, I don't care if you don't know the technology part, but I need somebody who can do good research. And I'm like, that's me. So I went down and interviewed and got the job. I didn't have any experience, but the guy just said, you can pick it up along the way. But I knew how to run, legal human experiments is what we were doing, in corporations. So that's what I called myself. That's what I was doing. And it was fun. I cut my teeth there, got a great year under my belt. This was about the time when the .com bust was happening. And so I remember this as clear as day. I got called in on a Friday. My boss was like, hey, you're doing such great work. We want to hire you full time, blah, blah, blah. And like, as a somebody who's been working there as a contractor, like, I don't even know if like my contract's going to be renewed like every 3 months. I was like, sweet. I don't have to worry about contracts. I could be a full-time employee. And then the weekend comes around, come in on Monday, and the guy calls me in and says, hey, do you know that thing we talked about on Friday? It doesn't exist anymore. Like, everybody was pulling back their open positions because the .com bubble was bursting and everybody was just tightening up their belts, and I had to go look for another job. But that gave me the door into my first real job at eBay, funny enough.
So you got to work a whole day?
No. So I'd worked there for, I don't know, like 9 months. And so,
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, he had called me in on a Friday, and the weekend passed, and that was the time when everything was kind of like just blowing up from a tech perspective in the economy, not in a good way. And so he basically gave me like 3 months heads up because my contract got renewed, and so I had another 3 months to go. Back then, if you were a contractor at Microsoft, you couldn't work there for more than a year. You'd had to take 3 months off because before I got there, I guess the contractor sued Microsoft for treating them like full-time employees without giving them benefits. So they implemented this rule that you couldn't work there for more than a year. And I was like, oh crap, I have a mortgage to pay. I need to eat. And so like, what am I going to do? But he gave me a 3-month lead time to go find another job. And so
where are you living? Where are you living at this point?
So I'm living in, where are we living? We're living in a city called Dublin, which is
Ireland?
No. Still in California.
You are in California, though. Okay.
So we lived in like Dublin, San Ramon, Pleasanton, Danville. I live in Danville right now. Like the whole, like all the cities are right next to each other. And so we've kind of lived in the same area for 25, 26 years.
Okay.
And so this was, it was a good place to live because my wife worked in San Francisco, and she would go to San Francisco, I would go to Mountain View, and yeah, so I had to go on a hunt for another job, and that's actually, I think, was a blessing in disguise because my favorite job of all time was working at eBay. And so that was really fun. So it allowed me to get some more experience at a place that I thoroughly loved and enjoyed working for.
So what year is this?
This was 2001.
Okay. Now
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about working at eBay before,
Mhm.
and I know there've been some other YouTubers that talk about how they worked at other Fortune 500 companies to explain how smart they are, top shelf type stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to take shots at people. So Michael has nothing to do with this if I insult you. So what did you do at eBay? Because I know you've discussed it before, but what and how long did you work there for?
So I worked there for 10 years. I worked for 8.5 years at eBay proper, and then I worked for 1.5 years at PayPal. So I've been doing user experience research for the last 25, 26 years. And so basically what we do is we make sure that the product design and engineering teams are building products or services that, one, they want, we want the company to make money.
Hold on.
That's so funny.
Andrew,
Yes.
wait a minute. Michael, you saw Prince live when you was 9 years old?
Yep.
I can't wait till you get in the future and you hear what we're talking about now. I love when people, and most of the people don't realize they're behind. That's the best thing.
Yeah, it's
They-
so funny.
But
Um,
so
But yeah,
off topic.
yes.
When someone is watching 10, 15 minutes behind, do they not notice that the chat is like way off? Like,
I don't know.
anyway, I love it. When
Yeah.
you catch up to this, we're already in the future again.
So yeah, basically we would get people, users of eBay into what we called the usability labs. They were labs with one-way mirrors with a computer in a room. Like we would be behind the mirror and we would watch them buy stuff, sell stuff. We would create tasks for them to do, like, oh, go search for X, Y, and Z. We would give them money to go search for stuff, and we would uncover all of these issues. The number one, I guess, career defining project that I can still look back at now is actually from eBay, where I helped redesign their registration flow, and their registration flow was like 19 pages long. Like there's no need for it to be 19 pages long. And so after we were finished that project, Meg Whitman, was the CEO at the time, and it was basically earnings time. And because the redesign, I guess, made eBay so much more money because we made bidding contextual, like you never lost what you were bidding on if you were registering as a new user. Like before then, you would spend like hours and hours and hours looking for the perfect thing. You'd be like, oh, I need an account. And then that thing that you would want to buy wouldn't be there at the end of registration. And so we tied those two things together. That made the company, I think, an extra $45 billion a quarter. And so they had to basically call Wall Street and readjust their guidance, and like the stock went whoop. So that was a fun project. Like I still to this day feel like I can't believe that they're paying me to do what I do, because I have a blast doing it.
And Jorgen said, who's in charge of user experience at YouTube that shows you art on current time? Andrew, I'm so sorry when you finally catch up to
Awesome.
this. My
So-
son's name is Andrew, if that makes you feel any better. Like, I don't. Hey, all you gotta do is watch my Monday Night Live and realize, like, I am the butt of almost every single joke. Like, you guys came here to see me, and all you do is making fun of me. All right.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically, like, and also too, like, we would go out and do what we call field studies. So we would go to people's houses and watch them like search for their collections. And so this is actually where I got back into collecting, because in 2001, the CEO of the company was like, oh, we want all of our new employees to like use eBay, go buy something, go sell something. And I was like, what the heck am I going to buy? And like, for some reason, I was like, God, I miss the toys that I used to play with as a kid. And so I was buying up Transformers collections, G.I. Joe, Mask. I mean, you name it. There were boxes and boxes of stuff showing up at the house. And my wife,
when
was
you were
like,
buying it, were you buying it on eBay's dime or your own?
it was on my own time, but it didn't really take
on their dime. Like were they paying?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, this was all mine. I had to basically devise a system, where I didn't go broke doing this thing. And my wife starts seeing all these boxes of toys and she's like, Michael, why are all these boxes of toys showing up at the door? Like, she was kind of like blindsided by it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell you, I have this whole system down. I'm like, I can buy all these collections. I can, start selling the stuff that I don't want. And basically I can start collecting on the free, or I can make some money doing it. Because I'm just putting out money. And this was back when you can buy a whole Transformers G1 collection that was complete in like amazing condition for like $300. And so same with G.I. Joe. You could buy like 100 figure complete lot for like $300. And like that came with vehicles and all this stuff. And gosh, I remember, I love those days. I want those days back.
Well, I mean, Clint, I'm going to ask this soon. I wonder what Michael's wife was thinking when those collecting floodgates opened.
Yeah, I basically had I had to do the hard sell. Like I had I had prepared this for my own like well-being because I was like, when you're first married, like you don't really make a ton of money and you have a mortgage to pay, you need to eat, and you're thinking about a family. And so I would plan out while the collections were in transit, I'd make a big spreadsheet of like what I paid per piece and like what I could sell the extra pieces that I didn't want. And it would pay for that collection. And so once I told her about that, she was cool with it. So she's basically had to deal with it.
Andrew Davis says, I know I'm behind Lawrence. It's only 3 minutes. I'm at work, so I got to turn my phone on and off.
I feel like it was more than 3 minutes ago.
I do too. But hey, it's all fun. We wouldn't be ripping on you if we didn't think that you could handle it. Right? Like if we didn't think you could handle it, I have a mod boot you. Like, no, I love it. He's in the chat all the time. So, all right. So this is around 2001 because you said that's when you got back in it.
Yes, like heavy, like army building, like buying all different toy lines, Star Wars, GI Joe, Transformers, Mask. Like I needed all this stuff back.
Grab. Hello, Andrew Davis from the future. It's amazing here.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh! Do you know how it's pronounced? Is it graph? Is it giraffe? How does he say it? Graph.
I know the Toy Sorceress pronounces it giraffe. So.
Where the hell is she at?
She is she's getting her humble abode ready for me to come down to see her because we are gonna burn down San Diego at Comic-Con.
You know where she's not in this chat?
Oh yeah.
What? All right, so you're going to San Diego Comic-Con?
Yep.
All right. So do you do any of the stuff outside of San Diego? Like the booths and stuff? Because this is what I need you to do. Chuck. Oh God, Chuck something. It's driving me nuts. Who created the Looney Tunes and stuff? Chuck. Not Chuck Woolery.
He's a game show host.
Exactly. Hold on. I don't know why I can't think of this.
Let's ask Google. Let's see. Who created Looney Tunes? Leon Schlesinger?
Okay, it's not that. He did. Damn it. It's Chuck. Chuck. No, it's not Chuck Taylor. Chuck Jones. Thank you.
Oh.
So the Chuck Jones Experience. It's Chuck Norris, Chuck Taylor.
All the Chucks.
All right. So my oldest daughter just got a job there at the gallery. She moved to San Diego. Her boyfriend got a job offer. They moved there. So she's gonna be there, but they're on the outside. So if you end up in the Chuck, like the Chuck Jones Gallery, she says like 10 minutes away. I just talked to her yesterday about it. You gotta go say something to her.
Okay.
She's
She'll
the
be there?
redhead. She's the short redhead.
Okay.
But I found out she's actually not in Comic-Con because once I found out she was living in San Diego, I'm like, I gotta fly out there one day, and let's go to Comic-Con because it's gonna save a whole bunch of money on a hotel.
Oh yes, it will. Yeah, we all got to share a hotel, so it'll be myself, the Toy Sorceress, and her husband in one hotel room. It's gonna be fun.
Okay. So, I thought the way you made it sound like she lived there, so you wouldn't have to.
Oh no, no, she lives close, but it's far enough away that you can't drive back and forth. She lives in Los Angeles area, and San Diego is I think it's like a couple hours drive.
All right, because my daughter's living. She said she's like 45 minutes away. Which to me is no big deal. I drive all day, so I'm like 35 minutes. I mean, that ain't nothing. I do streams longer than that. Oh, wait a minute. All right, so you get back into collecting.
Yes, pretty hardcore. And it's funny, my cubicle at eBay begins up like filling up with toys. Like I was the only person who worked there that would actually display their collections in their cube, and so I had this huge army building scene. of like Cobra Vipers, bats, and like, there was just a mess of, the smaller play sets that could fit, on a cubicle and stuff like that. And so the funny thing was, like, nobody gave me crap about it. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool." And then there was one of my coworkers who would like rearrange the figures like every day. And like I'd have a new battle scene and I'd come into work.
Really?
And I
So
didn't
not,
know
in a bad, not in a bad way, because that sounds actually pretty awesome.
It was fun. I should try and dig up pictures. I was also part of a advertising campaign for eBay, and they wanted to do a photo shoot in my cube. And so I was there was an image of me with all of my collection in the background for a while in the movie theaters around the San Jose area. So I was like, that's pretty freaking cool.
Wow.
Didn't get paid for it, but it was just fun to just be in it and be part of it.
All right. So you get into this collecting.
Yeah.
How does your wife handle, like, because is she a collector of anything, or?
So she is now. Like when we were first married up until maybe from 2001 to 2014, no, she wasn't. And I think she was of the mind of like, whatever makes you happy, like go do it. Like, why, who is she to like kind of rein on what makes me happy? And so like that's one of the other things that I really love about her is like she supported all the things that I've done, and just with like really just kind of being like just being there for me and just not giving me like shit about it. I mean, sometimes she would when she would see like, droves and droves of boxes coming in, and she'd be like, really again? And I'm like, there was this one thing that I had to get in this collection, but I'm going to get rid of the rest. But, for the most part, she's super supportive.
So you swap a lot of stuff, or you were swapping a lot of stuff?
I would just, I was swapping. I would just basically start everything that I didn't want at 99 cents and just see where it ended up. Like I wasn't looking for a specific price. Oh my gosh. So funny.
Mr. Madigan says, Michael, can you have your wife call mine? I'll send you my number.
I will. DM me on Instagram. And
I love that.
And we shall talk. But yeah, so yeah, I would basically start everything at 99 cents. Like back then, I didn't know market value of anything. And then I was like, if I could I'd look at completed items, and I would know generally what the auctions would end at. So I just let them go, and I would just let the market figure it out. And, I'd always end up ahead. And that way I wasn't like artificially inflating, the market. And I forget when buy it now even was a thing on eBay. Like, I don't know if it was a thing until maybe a little bit later after I started working there.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember seeing it one day and it was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So how old were you when you guys, how many kids do you have? Do I be asking?
Yeah, no, we have two kids. I have a 19-year-old and it's an almost 20-year-old. Geez, it's going to be 20 in August. And I have a daughter who's going to be 17 in November.
Okay, so
yeah,
you gonna bring him to Joe Fest then, or you travel with him?
So he's more into Pokemon. Him and his friends actually took a trip to the New Orleans Pokemon Championship and had a blast. Like it was just like
wow.
And then they were bumming around New Orleans, and that was fun for them. But yeah, probably not. It'll probably be me going solo, or if my wife wants to visit the location. I forget where it is, but
Andrew Davis says, "I'm in the past with old eBay prices where Michael wants to be. I'm buying all the old collections and making my way to the future to charge people triple prices."
I know, seriously. Like I look back at, because I don't have that spreadsheet anymore, but I can still remember. It's like, $1.99 for like a straight arm snake eyes. Like $1.99. Oh, a Mickey. So it also too, like that was back in the day when people didn't know what was in their collection. So like I would buy this stuff and I would be like, holy crap, there's a Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander with like a perfect symbol in this collection. And I would just be like rifling through it, and I'm like, oh crap, there's a Viper glider pilot with a perfect symbol, you know, that's tight and everything. And I was like, okay, those are getting saved and not sold.
Wow, man. I never even thought about that. I never even thought about that growing up.
Yeah.
Or, well, I guess I would already be grown up.
We had a lot more growing up to do.
So I had to gas really quick. All right. So you get into collecting
Yes.
and you're kind of supporting the habit by, I'm going to say swapping stuff. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I did a short video a while back where I bought a G.I. Joe lot for $100. And the person that hit me up, it was a friend of mine. She's like, hey, are you still collecting G.I. Joe? I was like, yeah, why? She's like, this friend of mine, he has this box of stuff. And she sent me a couple pictures. And I was like, how good of a friend are they? And she's like, I just, you know, I know him. We're not really, really good friends. I'm like, I'll buy it for $100 right now. And the thing that it had was the Tomahawk parts that I needed for my Tomahawk.
Mm.
In it, it also had the Tomahawk sticks, the sticks, both of them. And then I took everything I needed, sold everything off, and I probably made a couple $100 off of it.
There you go.
Yet ended up with all the stuff that I had or that I needed. And so I have no problem with people doing that, doing that.
No.
I have a problem, I think we all do, with the people that go out and buy new stuff.
Yeah.
To inflate the prices, like you said.
Yeah.
I sold the Viper, classified Viper, for like $90 when it first came out because I just happened to be at the right spot.
Yeah.
But I didn't buy them all up.
Right.
I had bought 3 of them at multiple places. And I remember I was sitting there looking at it, and my son came down and he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can probably sell this. And, and I started off at like $30. It sold for like 90 or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll probably get like 80 for it or something. And he's like, so that will pay for everything? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you should sell it.
Yeah.
And then they became very readily available. I think I have like 12 Vipers now, like 12 different versions of Vipers of here or there. A matter of fact, I customized this Viper, Crimson Viper, because I have 3 of them. And I'm like, I remember buying 2. I don't know how I bought a third. I don't remember when I bought a third one.
That's funny.
All right. So as the collecting is growing and growing, how do you decide that you're going to start a YouTube channel?
So there was a bunch of time that passed in between the collecting and starting the YouTube channel. I wish I had started it, in the beginning of YouTube, because it's just so much fun, and I would just know that many more people and just be that more knowledgeable. But yeah, so it's funny. I met my former co-host Larry through eBay, and I was buying Motu 2000X figures at the time, and he was selling a Prince Adam. And by the way, that Prince Adam is the spitting image of Mark Hamill. So Mattel has made a fantastic Luke Skywalker figure out of that Prince Adam 2000X figure, but I digress. So Larry and I start talking, like he was really into like the upcoming Motu Origins line, and we were talking about it. And so we just ended up talking, back and forth through eBay for a while, and then we finally exchanged numbers, and so we were texting like pretty much every day about toys.
How
and
come? When did Toy Habit start? Like, because I thought it to me it seemed like it was older than that, but I guess it makes sense because I started listening right around that time.
Yeah, it was the 2021 when it started.
Oh, it's not even that old.
No,
It seems like it's
I know.
every time.
So weird.
COVID just like time just stood still.
Oh, seriously, like that got me in trouble so many times. Like my son turned 16 during COVID, and I forgot to register my car because like all the years and everything was bleeding together, and like you didn't go anywhere, and like it was just such a weird time. And so we get to the DMV, and they're like, "Sir, your car registration is expired." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's it's 2020. She's like, sir, it's 2021. I'm like, what? So
I love that.
that was a rough day. But you know, he was able to get a retest a couple weeks later, and he passed with flying colors. So anyway. So it started during COVID, and we just started just talking about anything and everything toys, because it's like we weren't really sure like what our focus was and whatever. So we just kind of were talking about stuff that we liked or enjoyed. So we talked about like Transformers. My daughter was collecting Marvel Legends at the time. You know, we were really into G.I. Joe and Motu. So it was kind of like trying to cover a lot of properties, you know, in the streams and stuff like that, or in the, not the streams, but the recorded videos that we would make.
Okay. So what made you guys, I mean, that's what made you say, hey, you know what, let's just do this whole YouTube thing. I hear people get totally rich off it. So much money, like it just flows. I can retire.
Oh, I'm retired, and I'm just kidding.
So
I think we were talking about it so much. We were like, why don't we just start a YouTube channel and just kind of talk about it, you know, just, you know, face to face, like, you know, we are, you know, with the virtually over Zoom at the time. And so we just started doing that, and, you know, we would make episodic content where we would have like topics to talk about, and we would just ramble on for a long time until we, you know, started putting a little bit more focus on, you know, the topic, or just trying to focus in on things that we really, really liked. And it turned out like G.I. Joe and Masters of the Universe were like the two things that we were really passionate about. And so we just kind of focused the channel on that for a while.
all right. So how long were you two doing the show together?
That's a good question. I think we were doing it for a little over a year. And then, you know, there was, you know, we were doing a lot of recorded videos, and, you know, I was wanting to kind of branch out and do more live streams and just kind of meet with other YouTubers and stuff. But I think that, you know, my co-host at the time, like, he also had a family and just didn't have a lot of time, you know, for this. And so, you know, I kind of shouldered the burden of doing probably like 99% of just the work that it takes. And you know how much work it takes to edit, you know, record a video, edit it, and stuff like that. I was spending like probably 15 or 20 hours a week just doing fine editing and like making the stuff watchable. So I'm like,
Never gotten into that. You just watch it. You get what you pay for, which is nothing.
exactly. And so, you know, it got to a point where, you know, I wanted to take the channel in a certain direction, and he kind of wanted to keep it the way it was. And we just had a lot of creative differences. And so, you know, I think we, you know, it was just, you know, it was a lot of work, and, you know, it was just like, I couldn't really continue at the pace that I was going. And like, I was really getting burned out, you know, with it. And so, you know, we kind of chatted about it, and it just ended up, you know, parting ways. And I was actually going to quit YouTube after that. Like,
You guys took a little bit of time off before you came back, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's funny because the Toy Sorceress was, we had met. It's funny. We'd actually met because of Larry. During one of the episodes that we were recording, Larry and I were talking about the Hero Masters of the Universe figure. It was the Masters of the Universe Classics figure, and it came with 3 gems. It had a purple gem, a red gem, and a green gem. And the Toy Sorceress really, really wanted the green gem. Both Larry and I had the green gem in our staffs, and she had the red gem. And so she had made a comment in the video, or like in the comment section, that said, you know, oh, you know, I really want the green gem. If you're up for trading, you know, I would really love it. And so I think a couple days went by, maybe 3 or 4 days, and, you know, he didn't really respond to the comments very often. And so I had the green gem, and I was like, I don't think Larry's ever going to see this. And so I just said, hey, you know, let's just exchange addresses, let's exchange gem, the staffs. And that's kind of where our relationship started. She started, just like texting me news that she would come across, and we would feature it on the YouTube channel and stuff like that. We didn't have a website at the time. And so my wife actually was the genius behind the website idea. She's been doing her own website since 2014. And she's like, you really need to move your content off of YouTube, because like YouTube also owns all of your content. And so I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so she was working behind the scenes. We originally brought her on to actually go through a lot of the comments and kind of mod the comments on the YouTube channel, because there was just a lot. Like we would spend, I don't know, like on a good day, you could really spend like 2 hours responding to like comments.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Like Sweet Brown says, ain't nobody got time for that.
And I let me apologize to a lot of people that I have not responded to that have made comments. I used to, respond to every comment in some way, some fashion, especially if you have the YouTube app on your phone. You can't get rid of the 3 comments until you respond.
Yes.
So I want to be able just to wipe, like, I don't have a response to that. I just want it to like be gone, right? But it's like you have to respond.
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of like the thumbs up or the muscle that I do. Like I just need to get this thing off. But if you get behind, at first it's easy, but as more and more people, as your channel grows, more and more people are commenting. Once you fall behind, when I had those 3 retro figures reviews before anyone, the Recondo, Scarlet, and Duke, right? I didn't respond to any comments. Well, I did, I think, right at the beginning, but then I just kind of had other things going on. 3 or 4 days went by, and I started responding, and it was like, oh my God, it doesn't fucking end. I can't keep doing. I cannot sit on the shitter this long, all right, to get through all of these.
Picture that, people. Really.
It becomes a thing. And I was actually listening to this is, and I should do this every single time. I was listening to a coach. And he was saying that he responds. It was actually for Oakland when they won the first. They won their first game in the NC2A tournament, and he said, "Oh, I respond to everyone at like 4 a.m. because then they won't respond back to me," which is the best thing, because if you start responding in the middle of the day when everyone's up, then they just start responding back, and you're like, "No, I'm trying to get through all of."
Yeah, I mean it's hard, and it's like I look at all the comments, but it's you can't. And after a while too, the community ends up like going back and forth. So I'm like, okay, it's and it takes a very long time. So after a while, when my wife was like, oh, you should move your content off of YouTube, I emailed the Toy Sorceress and was like, do you want to do something more important than going through? I mean, I'm not to say that like YouTube comments are not important, but we basically wanted to transition, and kind of move a lot of the content that we were posting on YouTube into more of like a traditional website format. And so that's what we started doing together. She works so hard. We have the same work ethic.
Are you and Larry still doing the show then? Because the site started before you guys had split up, didn't it?
No, the site started. It started after we split up. It started in January, February, in like May of 22.
Okay.
I think. One of the things that I was like, okay, well, if he doesn't want to help with the YouTube content, maybe he'll want to work on the website, right? Maybe it's something that doesn't require him to learn video editing or whatever. Like I can do that. So we had a conversation about it. He was like super gung ho about it, and then nothing happened with it. Like 3 months passed, and there was nothing. And so I think that was also part and parcel of like I was just kind of done and just wanted to move on. And so I did eventually take a break for about 3 months or so. Like I was burnt out. I didn't want to create any more YouTube content, and I was waiting for some help, which never came. And so that was part of it. And what got me back into it was, I think Mega J kind of reached out to me and was like, hey, I know you're not doing recorded videos anymore, live streams. Do you want to just come on my show and just chat about stuff? And I was like, sure. I'm like, so I started guesting on other people's channels. This is where the Toy Sorceress kind of made her debut as the Toy Sorceress, on other people's YouTube channels as guests. And so, at some point, I also needed somebody that I could bounce ideas off of and had like fresh ideas. Like I was caught in a rut just doing recorded videos all the time and just didn't have anyone to like have that creativity and to like help me think differently. And so she was that person. And so she was like, Michael, why don't we just do a weekly live stream where, the content that we can. I was also spending like hours trying to drum up like content, putting it into Google Slides and all this stuff. She's like, all the content we make is already on the website. I'm like, oh yes, duh. And so we kind of transitioned into that format where we were more about kind of talking about like a special topic that we wanted to talk about, plus news, and just interacting with the community, which like I absolutely love. Like this is like when I started doing more live streams, I really got hooked because I was meeting cool people, meeting people that were in the chat. I mean, like, yeah, like you said, like we're not going to get rich off of this. And that's not really why we started this. And it was really to like meet folks like you and folks in the chat. And I've been having a blast, kind of the Toy Habits 2.0.
It's like I don't drink, but it's like hanging out at a bar. It's like when we go to a skate spot and you're hanging, when you're not skating, you're just talking to people, that's all that it is. It's just you have the chat that's going on, or if you're on a live stream. And I've been on Mega J's, and he'll message you and be like, hey, you want to stream? Okay, when? 15 minutes, and you're like, well, usually people give me more of a heads up.
I'm not on most of the
time. I think we might have been. I think that might have been the first time we were on a stream together. And actually, the first time we were on a stream together was on Mega J's for the Cat Slayer.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And I was the one, but I believe it was. It was either that one or it was another one that we were on, and there was someone in the chat, and I messaged you. And I'm like, don't interact. Do not interact.
Oh yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yep. Yeah. Don't engage.
I'm like, don't engage. This happened.
I remember him from our really popular like G.I. Joe days, where like kind of the channel had its first like takeoff, and yeah, he was all over the comments in the videos and stuff.
Yeah, and don't ask because I ain't telling you who it is. All right. So quickly, where was it? Coma Commander says, so what happened to Larry?
Yeah, so
he's still living.
Yes, he's still living where he is.
What happened to him?
Yeah. So we parted ways. I think God, I really can't remember like the time frames. Like if it was like late 2022, it was probably like around like the December 2022 time frame that we parted ways. And I took a break, and then the Toy Sorceress really reeled me back in and was like, let's just change the format. Let's, have fun. Like, don't take it so seriously. And, that's what we've been doing. And it's been a hoot.
And I think it's like, you guys weren't friends like before. You bonded, and you guys don't live in the same area. So I don't think, so you really haven't kept in contact with him.
No, we haven't spoken since we parted ways. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And it happens. I mean, sometimes things don't work out and you just don't think about it because you have other things going on. I'm sure he has other things going on in his life. So,
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say it again. That thing should not have funded. And I only believe that Super 7 pushed it through because they didn't want it to fail.
Yeah.
Because those numbers jumped like some YouTubers' numbers jumped when they're buying subs. Oops, did I say that? Don't buy subs. I will find out. I mean, all you have to do is go look at Social Blade.
Yep,
It's
Social Blade.
right there. Oh, hey, look at this. All of a sudden, you got 400 subs when the most you've ever gotten before was like 20 and you didn't do any content. Oh, the next week, you got 500 subs. I can put two and two together. And the last video that I did, well, that really explains a lot. And a lot of people have been receptive to that going, oh, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I spent too much time on this, but I get so interested in something new and like learning about it that so anyway, we don't even want to talk about that. So toy habits, you and Toy Sorceress start doing it. I got to say this. There's two things. First off, I think you guys have wonderful chemistry.
Oh, thanks.
She is laughing so much, which Larry never did.
No.
And it's not an indictment on him because I don't know him, but I felt like when you and Larry were doing it, it was just hey, this is what's coming out and this is how everything was, and there was no ups and downs. Then you watch the Toy Sorceress, and I am not, you want to say like stop laughing at your own jokes, but I do a fucking 3.5 hour stream on Mondays. All right, all I do is laugh at myself. All right, so I'm the last one to tell someone not to laugh at their own jokes. All right, but you guys seem like a completely different personality.
Oh,
And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like it doesn't feel like, oh my god, oh this guy is totally hamming it up and he's trying to be fake. It's like you guys just kicked it off, and there's this wonderful chemistry. And the second thing is, you are one of the few live streams that can go live at any time and have 150 people watching.
that's crazy.
Because that's probably my biggest issue finding you guys. It's you were going live at this time, and then we're gonna do this, and every time I tune in, I'm like, there's 200 fucking people watching. The fuck does that happen? All right. I get 100. I'm like, hell yeah. And then I see, and then it just dips. But I'm like, hey, I went over 100. All right. I have it right here on the YouTube app. You want to see? So you're one that people will seek you out. They'll find your stuff, which I think is awesome. And is a testament to how you guys are. So
thank you.
Tell me more about like how you two, like, I mean, you talked about how you guys met, but how did it feel when you started working and doing streams with her? Because there is something very special about doing streams. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The whole live and the interaction is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it felt really good, and there is chemistry there because like I can't be a fake person. It's very hard for me to be a fake person. I have a shitty poker face.
Welcome to the club.
I know. It just felt really natural to be talking back and forth with the Toy Sorceress, and she is so knowledgeable about everything. Like I go deep on the toy lines that I really, really like. So I have depth on stuff. She has both breadth and depth on things, and things that I have no clue about. And so she brings that extra special something and can add anecdotes about stuff that I never even knew existed as a kid. And so I think she's always like getting up out of her chair and like showing stuff on the streams. And I think it's that passions that she has that kind of just shows, and just her personality just makes her it makes her easy to talk to. It makes it fun. And we can just be ourselves on the stream and not have to worry about like trying to match somebody's like Debbie Downer personality. Sorry, I had to say it. Anyway, Yeah.
I'm
were
the one that's usually apologizing for something that I said.
times where like I was fired up about something and like so excited to like do this like recorded video, and then like at the end I just felt just like beaten and downtrodden afterwards. I was like, why?
I like what Clint Jorgensen said, referring to that live stream. I actually became a fan of Punk when he said that. He totally went against the grain. I gotta say, when I was on that, and I mean, you guys were all like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "This thing is not gonna fucking fun." All right. But when I saw it at PowerCon, I was with Ed Action Figs. When you see that thing, you're like, "Holy shit, that thing is big." And that's coming from someone that has an aircraft carrier in his basement that's had it, from his childhood. Like that thing is very impressive. I will still stand by the thing would not have funded if they didn't fudge the numbers, because all of a sudden there was a huge jump out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I did owe Mega J a Coke. Unfortunately, at PowerCon they only had Pepsi, and he refuses to drink Pepsi. And then we went out to dinner after that. He's like, because I met them there. He's like, they only have Pepsi here.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, Clint's follow-up comment is kind of funny. Yeah, the Toy Sorceress does know that ninjas and superheroes are my Achilles heel. Not a fan of ninjas, and I'm not into superheroes.
That's right. You and Payne's Toy Samples. And according to Matthew, my moderator, ninjas aren't even real.
Wow.
Yet he's really upset that Storm Shadow version 2 classified, he has the swords on the wrong side.
But if he's not real, how could they be on the wrong side anyway?
Thank you. Hear that, Matthew? You're completely wrong, because your whole philosophy of how they're on the wrong side, they're not real, so they can be on whatever side they want.
Yeah, but I've thoroughly enjoyed just the friendship that has spawned from just knowing this person. And do you want to hear the craziest thing? Her her husband, his parents are friends with my parents, just randomly. Like, we had no idea. I knew that my parents had a friends with the same last name. And so the Toy Sorceress one day was like, do you know, your parents live down in the desert. Do they know this couple? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's my husband's parents. And I was like, what?
Wow.
It was the randomest thing. It was so crazy. And so, yeah, it was really weird that like my parents and I share something in common with this person that I just met.
Sorry, because Clint Jorgensen says, "Well, tell Matthew the moon landing wasn't real." Matthew says, "Buzz Aldrin punched people in the face for less in his 70s." Yes, he did, and I'd love that. That is one badass dude. Travis B74 said, "Good night, ladies and gents. Going to bed. Have to work tomorrow." Well, so do I, but I don't go to bed. Do you work from home?
I do, yeah. So when I guess when COVID hit,
everyone got sent home.
Everyone got sent home, and I got permanently sent home. So I think I was working for Fandom at the time, which is Wikia and like all of like Joepedia, like all of the wikis that you see on the internet are kind of under the umbrella of Fandom. So I was working there, and I wasn't really thrilled with like the direction of leadership that that they were taking like the company and all this stuff. And so I'd went back to I'd worked for Twitter before. So this was from 2014 to 2018. I worked for Fandom for about a year and a half, and I was like, oh, I really liked working for Twitter. I want to come back to the company. And so I rejoined the company in 2020 as a remote employee when Elon Musk was showing interest in buying the company, I was like, I don't want to see how this ends, and I really hate this guy. And so I started looking for another job. And so the next job I landed was at LinkedIn, where I currently am, and I just came back as another remote employee. You had a choice of like hybrid, which you could go into, an office and also work from home certain days. But I was like, I have mobility issues and stuff like that. And so I'm like, I've commuted for 20 years, and I was like, I could deal with not commuting for the rest of my life, work life.
Okay, so do you mind me asking what happened or not?
Oh, no, not at all.
I think I did ask if there's anything, and you said there's
Oh,
everything. But and we can I did a big. I didn't realize we skipped so much when we went to when Toy Habits started, because I really thought Toy Habits started further back.
no.
I got a lot. I got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, so I suffered a stroke when I was 40, just out of the blue.
Oof.
I was healthy. One of my arteries in my neck just decided to like close off and pinch off, and my neurologist said that he really saw that in, like, if you were in a car accident and you had whiplash, like one of your arteries could like sever, right, just from that force of like whipping back and forth. And then also, like, he was like, oh, have you ridden a mechanical bull recently? I'm like, no.
Had you?
No. And so it was really a trip.
Wait, he asked that? Like,
yeah, he was like
that was his go-to. Like,
were you in a car accident?
Mechanical bull lately?
Have you ridden a mechanical bull? No. Because it's that whipping around that can cause that. And yeah, and it was like, no. I guess it was just some congenital thing that I just had.
Life got rough
brewing.
sex going on.
No.
Here?
Nope.
Well, we did have some pretty rough sex the other night. Probably didn't think that this was going to go down this way, huh?
No. And so, yeah, it was really weird because I didn't exhibit any symptoms of having a stroke. Like, I had my strength, like my face wasn't drooping. And so it was really confusing, like what was going on. So when I finally went to the ER, actually, let me back up. Before I had like the major stroke that put me in the hospital, I had a mini stroke. And I guess that's where the artery like closed off and it was trying to heal itself, but I didn't know what was going on. And so it formed a clot, and that clot ended up.
Did you know you had a mini stroke?
Nope.
Okay.
No. So if I knew that, I would be in
serious shit. Like that's
I would be in a totally different position, because I would have gotten the blood thinners that would have, like, I guess, cleaned it out and not had like that clot that sent me to the hospital. So it affected my balance center in my brain. It luckily did not affect my like cognition or thinking, but I couldn't walk and like not tip over. It was the strangest thing. And so I had to basically go to rehab to learn how to walk again and to balance. But I was left with all this like nerve damage on my right side. I became part superhero because I couldn't feel pain. I couldn't feel temperature. And so the mechanical bull.
So that's how you should have answered that. And it wasn't a mechanical one.
No.
It wasn't a mechanical bull.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I spent my insurance would only pay for me to go to a nursing home. Like, this was like it was the most interesting time in my life. I never got down about anything. I was super positive. I was along for the ride. I was like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get through this.
The mechanical bull ride, right?
The mechanical bull ride. Yeah. Like, no more mechanical bulls. That was the main thing. So it took about 3 months. And so I was able to walk again. Like, I learned how to balance again. So I couldn't turn my head and like look at something and fall over. It was the strangest thing.
Was it that bad? Like, you just...
Oh yeah, it struck my balance center, and it also cut off the, I guess, pain receptors and temperature receptors on the right side of my body. It actually first cut off everything. Like, I could feel touch, but I couldn't feel pain or temperature. I couldn't hurt myself. I could put my hand in fire and not feel anything.
See, no, my moderator, Matthew Matson, he is a doctor. like, and he does like physical therapy and stuff. So him and I are gonna have all kinds of talks about this because right now he's probably writing down notes, like formulating like.
Yeah, and like if I knew I had a mini stroke, because he said like mini strokes predict larger ones, like yeah, we would have been all like, we were trying to figure out like what was causing, like I was getting vertigo at the time. I was getting like dizzy spells, and like I saw an ENT, I saw my general. I was eventually like going to get an MRI to get my brain scan to figure out what was going on. And so I had an appointment on a Monday. I had the stroke on Thursday. So if I would have figured out to get that done sooner, maybe things would have been different, but here I am. I'm happy to be here. And, part of it, I've come out with, a couple superpowers. Like I can't feel temperature. So I'm a constant 70 degrees. So you can put me in freezing cold. You can put me in 130 degrees and I'll still feel like it's 70.
So even now,
Yeah. A lot of the nerve damage is on my right side. So like anything cool that touches my skin feels like it's burning my skin. So there's like just a lot of weird sensations that I have.
So you are constantly living in San Diego.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And this is like 70 degrees. Just
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yeah. And so it's funny, like that going through that, and I ended up going back to work after like 3 months because my doctor was like, you're good, just go, but start going back to work part-time. Like this happened at Twitter. Like I remember we were at a dinner that night with our team and I just disappeared for 3 months. And like I disappeared from the company. Like nobody knew where I was except for my manager, because he didn't, he couldn't tell anybody what happened to me. And
I'm sorry. I look up here and I see Clint Jorgensen. Many strokes turned into many strokes, which turned into different strokes that turned the world.
What you talking about, Willis?
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, yeah. So yeah, that was 2016. So 8 years later, still here. In 2016, the little small classic NES came out, and so that kind of reignited my video game passion. And so I started collecting old video games and video game consoles in addition to all the stuff I collect too.
Was that long ago?
It was a long time ago.
So all right, so the stroke here. So what other things, like, so you don't feel temperature, which is crazy.
No.
Which is really good that you don't live like in somewhere here like in Michigan, because you wouldn't realize you're walking out when it's 20 degrees and the wind is whipping.
Yeah,
probably not the worst thing, but are there other things that it's affect? Because I wouldn't be able to tell. And you're right. Normally, when someone has a stroke, you can tell by how they slur their words or their face is drooping or different things like that. But you don't have any of that. So what other things that other than the temperature?
Yeah, I think like the bottom of my right foot feels like it's, how you like push your funny bone and you get that like tingling feeling.
It's like it's asleep.
It's kind of like on the verge of like pins and needles all the time.
That's my ex lives with that because of her 4 back surgeries.
Yeah. The nerves are when you have nerve damage, it can either repair itself or it can just be jacked up and messed up for life. It's basically the entire right side of my body is pretty messed up. So it's like just dealing with a lot of like chronic pain and that. So it's like now I'm like fortunate that I'm working from home because I don't have to commute. And also with just the damage from like the stroke itself, just like going through a day makes me like really, really tired. Like if when I had to commute like back to Twitter when COVID didn't happen, I just found myself just super, super fatigued at the end of the day. And it was just my brain just couldn't take everything. It was just a lot of stimulus. Wow. I'd go to movies and the lights would bother me, and just all the stuff that I just wasn't paying attention to was just bothering me all of a sudden. So I was like, good Lord.
So- I'm not reading that, Cobra Commander, but I put it up there so everyone else can read
Cobra Commander.
it.
What else? Yeah, I had to actually had to hang up a hobby that I really, really loved, and that was doing deep space astrophotography, because I just couldn't stay up that late.
So
anymore.
Clint says those injuries are common with gymnastic boulders. SDCC reported today.
Breaking news.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I didn't get my daughter into bowling. She was just a gymnast. Like, this is your future, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So wait, so you had to give up astro?
Deep space astrophotography. So it's basically using a land-based telescope to take images of things that are, galaxies, nebula, star-forming regions in space that are billions of light years away.
So why did you have to? Why would you have to give that up?
Because I couldn't stay up as late.
Oh.
So I was basically setting up imaging, starting at 11 at night. I would go to bed at 3 and 4 in the morning and then go to work the next day. I just couldn't do that anymore. So I did that for.
I don't know what that's like.
Yeah, right. You're living it.
I know. I started fasting and I've been sleeping like a baby lately, but I don't sleep a lot. So, but when I go to sleep, I don't wake up. I'm good. Okay, well that's interesting. I thought there maybe was like a reason, like you couldn't look into it or something. You just can't physically stay awake.
I couldn't physically I could physically take the telescope and I had it was on wheels, so all I had to do was align it with the North Star, figure out what I was going to shoot, program it to track the thing that I was going to be imaging, for several hours, and then I just couldn't stay up. So my dream, if I ever own a plot of land somewhere outside of California, because it's so expensive to have land in California, I would love to build a small observatory that is automated. It can, there's software now where you can.
How much YouTube money are you making? Holy shit! we are on two different YouTube pay scales, and everyone makes fun of me for how much money I supposedly make.
But yes, I would love to just own a plot of land with a 360-degree view of the sky, and they make software now that you can automate everything. It can wake the telescope up, figure out what to shoot, collect the data, and then shut itself down. And so I wouldn't have to deal with any of it. And then once you wake up in the morning, you have data to analyze and image to put together.
Okay, so what hobbies do you do? What hobbies do you have other than? And we'll get into your toy collecting, but what other hobbies? Because you talked about, or what else do you collect? What hobbies? I guess.
Geez.
You talk about video games.
Yeah, so I do have a video game collection. I'm actually just starting to set that up right now in the corner here. So it's got the GameCube, all the old consoles. So a couple.
That's a Dreamcast.
Yeah, that's a Dreamcast. My wife actually worked on that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a cool story. Yeah, so there's the SNES, the NES, the GameCube, all that stuff. So
did you call it the SNES?
Super NES.
I've never heard someone refer to it as the SNES.
I didn't want to call it the Super Nintendo. So I always think of little Ralph Wiggum in The Simpsons calling the superintendent Super Nintendo Chalmers. So yeah, I started collecting video games, and it's whenever I collect something, I have to go deep. So it's I can't own a cartridge. I have to own the cartridge and the box that's in perfect condition and all this stuff. That's also expensive too. It's have really expensive hobbies. But my love from all of these game consoles is actually playing all of the Legend of Zelda Nintendo games as they were intended. That's why I bought all of these old systems.
So Allison says you collect Pogs.
Nope. I don't.
So video games, obviously your toys. Is there anything else that you?
I don't think so. Like my wife collects like vintage canes and stuff like that. So like we'll go to the antique fair that we see Brian Flynn at, every now and then. And so she likes gadget canes, she likes ironstone, and so we have our different collections now. She's starting a collection of these little headless, armless porcelain dolls called Frozen Charlottes. Like, she's cool.
Wow.
Okay.
All right. Hold on.
Here comes the money.
Here we
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Money talk.
Here comes the money.
That's a great song.
Graph with the $3 for future plot of land with telescope and the
Thank
SNES.
Yeah.
So,
There we
so when I was trying to figure out something to play when I get a super chat, I'm like, okay, Shane McMahon is perfect, right?
go. Yes.
Think of him dancing coming out. That song is so fucking long. All right.
It
It's
is.
an actual song. I didn't realize. Like, I just remember that point and him coming out dancing and doing
Yeah.
this little thing. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get it. And I'm like, this is like a real song. This doesn't stop.
Does it? Yeah, it's funny, but little known fact, I've been into wrestling since I was 7. So I'm still into wrestling.
Little known fact, I was at WrestleMania 3 with 93,173 people.
No shit. That's awesome.
My 2 claims to fame is I have the USS flag and I went to WrestleMania 3.
WrestleMania 3 was unreal. Like that was so freaking cool.
Every time it's on, like I still get goosebumps. Like I don't watch wrestling anymore, but like I still get goosebumps when I see Hulk Hogan being challenged by Andre, when he accepts the challenge, when I get goosebumps. And anytime I see WrestleMania 3 or they show it, I'm like, I was there. I'm like, hey, look, there I am.
That was
I mean, I can be pointing anywhere because there was no way to see me. We're all
right.
respects.
there I am.
Yeah,
Dude, that was Bret Hart and Piper, right? That was their match. Also Santana and Macho Man.
No. WrestleMania 3 was Macho Man and Steamboat.
Oh, Steamboat. I'm sorry. Yes, sorry.
And I want to. Who's the Hart's face?
I think it was Bret Hart and Roddy Piper. It was Hart in singles competition.
No, I think he was. I think they were still because the Bulldogs were there because I love the Bulldogs. I actually think it was actually when WrestleMania 3 was when Brutus became the barber.
I love that.
I remember Macho Man and Savage, Macho Man and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and then obviously Hogan and Andre. Like that was like, I mean, so many people had slammed Andre and you just didn't know it.
Yeah.
And then when you look back and you're like, wait a minute, he was getting slammed all the time.
Oh yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, it was Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis.
Yes, and that's
yeah,
what
it was Danny. Yeah, there was a Danny Davis and the Hart Foundation. They were defeated by Tito Santana and the British Bulldogs. All right, I'm getting my mania.
My dad used to say, yeah, he does the flying burrito. We're Mexican. We're Mexican, so it's
Jesse
okay,
Ventura
right?
said too.
What?
Isn't that what Jesse Ventura used to say too?
Maybe that's where my dad got it from.
He probably did.
I was big into wrestling. I was saying too, I'm like 20, maybe the 2010 or so. Because through the Attitude Era, through the Monday Night Wars, but then it just got to the point where I just had so much stuff going on with the family and everything. And then when we split up, you start watching again. But once I started skateboarding again, it was I mean, that was all my free time for years. So, I mean, in my 40s, here I am, and I'm doing it more than my friends that I'm meeting that are like 23, 24, that are complaining that I'm just tired. I skated yesterday. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah,
I don't.
that's funny. Yeah,
Uh,
I was at Mania 7 with it was Slaughter versus Hulk Hogan. I know that was the yeah.
so
But
you know my feeling on Sergeant Slaughter, right?
I don't actually.
So I'm not okay. I'm not a fan of Sergeant Slaughter. He turned his back on Hulk Hogan in the USA.
Yes.
I got to meet him at Joe Fest. So, if you see my Facebook profile,
I did see that.
It's me
did
choking
see
him, right?
Yes.
So we were all standing there. Thank you to Teflon for buying him a drink. And actually, 3-star right here. 3-star right here. Him and I were sitting at the bar, and the bartender wouldn't let us leave because he didn't want to deal with other people. We were actually supposed to go back to that table because that's where we were going to go. So when we get back there, they're Sergeant Slaughter and everyone's chatting. Wonderful guy, honest to God, absolute wonderful guy. No one was trying to occupy his time. No one was trying to one up. He's just telling stories. His manager wanted him to leave. He sat there for like 2 hours,
Oh.
which people pay $120 to have breakfast with him.
Yeah.
And I know Tony, myself, and Baldy were like, no, Travis, if you want to do that, you can go ahead. But there'll be other people. Go ahead. I don't care. But I'm not spending $120. They don't make eggs that good. And so, we're there, and then everyone always would, and I never heard this, so I started doing streams saying that you look like Little Sarge. So when I had the mustache, but if I do this,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So this is so gray now, you can't see it. So as everyone's telling the stories and going back and forth, and I said, hey, everyone says I look like you, and I did it right next to him, and he's like, oh, you're better looking, and then he kind of did like the choke, right? So he choked me, and then he let me choke him, and and I was looking at the picture after it was done. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, oh, he put his hat on me. That's why it's so big, right? And I said to him, I go, now I almost feel bad for not liking you. And he goes, oh, I'm almost scared to that's what it was. I was like, you turn your back on Hulk Hogan and the USA. Because everyone was like, because when people saw the picture, like, I bet you didn't say that to him. I'm like, oh, I did. And Baldy's like, oh, yeah, he did. Like, he didn't. Like, he understands. Like, it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. It's all fun. So I was never a fan of Sergeant Slaughter, and that's actually what my Cobra Convergence video will be. Is Dr. Mind Slaughter.
There you go.
So you can figure out and put the 2 and 2 together. This was a character that my friend and I made. Well, he had made it, and then I made it too. So we took Dr. Mindbender, who we didn't like, and put Sergeant Slaughter's arms on him. That's going to be my Cobra. Because I'm like, does it have to be? Can be a character that we made up as kids? And they were like, yeah, whatever you want to do. I'm like, all right, cool.
Ha! Well, that's cool. That's awesome that you got to meet the Sarge too.
Yeah, and it seems like every year someone says that, hey, yeah, he sat there, he stopped, and he talked to us for like hours. And it was at night, and he stopped. His manager kept trying to get him to go, and he kind of batted him back. And this guy was just like, no shit. What am I supposed to do? This is this is the guy that pays me. And there was probably, I don't know, 20 of us that kind of circulated throughout it. Because Travis was there, Tony was there, Baldy, Sherlock was there, Teflon, obviously. Ed, I don't know where the hell my moderator is. The only moderator that's here is the one that was at DFW. But yeah, we had. I mean, yeah, he's a great ambassador for the line. He really is. This is me getting off topic on everything.
All good.
So, what lines do you collect? Like, what are you actively collecting?
So I am actively collecting Masters of the Universe Origins, Masterverse figures, GI Joe Classified series, the Super 7 Simpsons line, just various characters that were meaningful to me because I used to watch that show with my dad. The Toy Sorceress got me into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so I'm collecting like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle classics figures. That's also the one part that I love about the Toy Sorceress is like she is like, you should look into this, and like she'll like show me stuff, and now I'm like okay, this is cool, and now I want to go buy the stuff and learn about it. Let's see, the WWE Superstars line. I do have a Star Wars Hot Toys collection that I can't have that big because they're so expensive, but I'm just collecting some, things randomly here and there. And I'm still actively collecting some of the vintage stuff that I want back in my collection. I started this really expensive tradition of, for the G.I. Joe and Star Wars figures or playsets that I really, really liked, I want the things like graded and in like very good condition. And so you can see some of the stuff behind me. Like there's a graded surveillance port that will never be opened ever.
Oh,
But
man.
so many memories with that surveillance port that I needed that particular thing like displayed this way. It's either something that my grandfather bought me or I had a good memory of it with, my dad. I was actually telling my dad this story the other day. So when I was sick home from school, he apparently stopped by either a Toys R Us or somewhere and got me the C-3PO with the removable limbs.
Oh,
And
yeah, I remember that.
I thought like that was the sweetest thing. Like I was sick in bed and he went out of his way and got me this toy. And so I want that particular figure like in pristine condition and graded and in my collection. It's going to cost me an arm and a leg, but it's so meaningful to me that he did that. Like I want that back in my life, and like I love that as a memory.
All right, quickly here.
Welcome to the Creamery.
Wraith Mace has donated a Punk membership, and it is Capitan that got it. So, Wraith, thank you very much. Oh, you probably never heard that before.
No.
Welcome to the Creamery.
I love I love that stuff. So cool.
So that's my daughter. And so somebody came in and they went under the name Toy Crustacean, and they started talking how it's disgusting that YouTubers accept super chats and have memberships because we're already getting paid. Now, through all of this and some of the things that were said, I was able to figure out that it was Viper Island. It all added up because he clearly was Canadian because he made a couple Canadian things. It was a burner account, which we know he has burner accounts because how he hits people. And
yeah.
So he was talking how, and then when he did his next video that he dropped, he talked about YouTubers and how it's gross that they accept, super chats and memberships. And these guys started saying how it's just the creamery because I'm just basically accepting all this stuff.
Creamery.
And after they said it a few times, we kind of started talking, and I went looking for a soundbite for the creamery, and there wasn't. So I had my daughter come over, and I'm like, hey, say welcome to the creamery. But she couldn't, I'm like, send me a voice note. So a couple weeks ago, she was here and got a membership, and I'm like, hey, maybe we'll have a live version. And she tried doing it. She just couldn't stop cracking up. My daughter has no shame whatsoever. She has no shame. So she's cracking up. She just could not do it. She did it, but it just, but the fact that, I could pull her over and like She has no shame whatsoever.
That's awesome. I love that it's your daughter's voice too.
Yeah, like thank you.
Makes it
But
all
yeah,
that more special.
but I think it was Allison. I know she talked about the creamery, but and then I remember I mentioned I'm like I think I might change the names, and Matt both mods were like don't do that like because it sounds kind of dirty if like I don't want to be part of the creamery. What's ice cream? All right, like
It's ice cream.
but yeah, you know, after this guy came in and he really like again, it was Liam, it was Viper Island because Allison found the account and then it was gone.
Yeah.
But
Allison's good at that.
oh yeah, he wasn't rude about things, you know, but I also wasn't able to read the whole thing because I was reading the stuff, but everyone that was in there. And I was glad there were a few other people that had YouTube channels that had memberships, and we talked about it earlier. Like no one, if you don't do YouTube content, you don't realize how much time we spend behind the camera, and it's none of their like they don't really care. They just want nice stuff, you know. They just want videos and stuff. They want to see and talk to us, whatever. But it's like it's nice when you have people that are willing to have memberships and send you super chats and you know do all that nice stuff for you because they're saying, hey, you know what, you give us content, you entertain us for hours, here, you know, here's a little bit. It goes far, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
But it was after, and it was actually Lone Dragon who was in the chat. I don't know if he still is. He sent, because I wouldn't watch Viper Island, he sent me something over and was like, he's like, do you see what this guy said? And when I watched it, I went, he was that fucking burner account because it all matched, it all lined up.
Yeah.
I thought it was Ken. I thought well, I talked to Ken about it after, and he made a Bret Hart reference, and like Ken popped in right afterwards and was like, hey, I heard people were donating memberships because everyone started donating membership, and I actually was getting pissed. And I told Ken, I'm like, because he reached out to me the next day and he's like, hey, he's like, how's Lawrence doing today? And it was really, he normally doesn't talk like that. I'm like, dude, was that you yesterday? He's like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it could have been an episode of Friends or any that like, it was this perfect storm. When I was talking to Ken, that he was watching hockey at the time, but some of the things that we had talked about earlier, and I was really pissed because he was insulting the people in my chat, the people that support me, right? That's what this guy. And I thought, but Ken's like, he goes, dude, a lot of those people are, you know, they support me. They're channel members of mine. He's like, I would have said that. But when I explained everything to him, he's like, oh my God, I can fully see how you thought that it was me. It was like the perfect storm. It could not have lined up any better, but it was awesome.
That's funny.
I mean, it wouldn't last that long, Wraith. I'm just, I love Ken. I think Ken would agree. It wouldn't last very long.
You guys just hug it out and be done.
Ken was awesome. Meeting him at Joe Fest. And Ken and I are pretty good friends, to be honest.
That's good. Yeah.
I don't think if people like knew us, they'd probably think I'm just this asshole that hates them, but it's just how we rib back and forth, you know, to each other.
Yeah.
But anyway, enough about me. Everyone already knows this. So where do you see you guys taking your channel? Have you and the Toy Sorceress talked about where you want the channel to go, or are you just?
I think we're just along for the ride. Like I'm happy with it, just the way it is right now, and you know, I think as long as we are able to interact with the community and have a good time, like that's really all I want out of it. Like I'm not going for like, oh, I want to hit, you know, 20,000, 30,000, whatever subs. I'm like, people who like our content will subscribe to us, and like that's the bottom line. And that's the bottom line. And so, yeah, we haven't really talked about like where we might want to take the channel, but like the website is a different beast. And so like we pour probably about 80 or 90% of our time into the website because we also have day jobs, and it's hard to like break out, record a video, you know, edit it, get it on YouTube and stuff like that. So we found that we are better at getting breaking news out a lot faster just through the traditional avenue of a website.
So you find it easier to do the website
Mhm.
over just doing a quick pre-recorded YouTube video.
Yeah, it we're getting pretty fast at just like churning out good content on the website, and so it could take me in upwards of like maybe 15 minutes at the most to get a decent article out versus like I have to coordinate a time with the Toy Sorceress, and like we have to record the video, we got to edit it, then we got to publish it, and then all that stuff. So I think that's a lot of the time, a lot of the reasoning too for just like switching to a live stream and just talking about the news. It's like people can read the news on the website, but like the fun part is active just discussing it and kind of talking about what it means, what it could be with folks in the chat and the people who tune in to Toy Habits. So like that's the funnest part. I tried doing a video a day, and it almost killed me. It was
It's
so
exhausting.
hard. And it's even like just 5-minute things, right? Or like 10-minute things. And it still was like, it was a lot.
It's exhausting.
It
Like
is.
talking that much is exhausting. I mean, I know when I do my reviews, the opening and sometimes the ending, I may do a couple times if I stumble through it. But my videos, I don't edit my videos because that's how my reviews are, right?
Yeah.
So if I screw up, I screw up. Very seldom have I had to stop something because maybe the dog is barking and he needs to go out, or someone knocks at the door or something like that. So I don't even have that. But the talking all the time, you know, especially if it's a long video,
Yeah.
you realize you're exhausted by the end.
Oh, totally. Totally.
So who does the website? Is it just you and the Toy Sorceress, or is your wife involved in that too?
No, she has her own website to deal with. Her online presence is tidbitsandtwine.com. She has a whole decorating website and whole
Okay.
venture going on. Which I'm like super proud of her for doing that, because like I think when my son was 3 or something, she just quit her job to be a full-time mom, and then in like 2014 she just started this website, and then in 2017 I came home one day and she's like, oh, I've learned how to monetize my website. I was like, I didn't ask her to do that. And so yeah, I'm super proud of her for doing that. And yeah, so she no, she has her own website to deal with. It's just the Toy Sorceress and I, and we try and do what we can to get the news out. I mean, we have wonderful anonymous sources that trust us with like getting early information out to people. We can't say leak because of, you know, our PTSD from Mattel sending us a cease and desist.
Oh, you got one of those too, huh?
Oh yeah.
You Geek Dad Life did.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about a copyright strike on YouTube. I'm talking about an actual legal like cease and desist. If you do not stop, we will come after you type of thing. If you do not un-internet what you just interneted, you'll be done.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that actually fast-tracked us into forming an LLC. So Toy Habits is actually a corporation. Because if we actually do get sued, because we kind of tread a line with these toy companies, they can't go after our personal assets. They can only go after what we make on YouTube, what we make through the website. So I think that was a blessing in disguise. And we've tested the waters with Mattel. The only thing that we got a cease and desist for was publishing images that we shouldn't have. Because it wasn't our property to do so. It wasn't our right to do so. And I understand that now. And yeah, it was the Turtles of Grayskull line that thank goodness launched. And so we were like, phew, because they can't come after us for that.
Oh my god, look at that. Right before, like, right as you said it, Clint Jorgensen says, was it for those Turtles of Grayskull Motu line that just peg warm? Literally, as you said it, he dropped that. That is awesome.
Yeah, so we get information all the time, and so I was really scared to like release the next like early information we had, but for the longest time all we did was like talk about what was coming out and like show pictures of like customs or like figures that have been produced before as stand-ins. So it'll be like, oh, this is what it could look like or whatever. And they didn't touch us for that. And so we went back to doing that. And thank goodness they've stayed away from us. Cause I mean, what can they do to us? Like we're just publishing what, it's all hearsay, for all they know.
It's just crazy that they do stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's very hard to un-internet something, let me tell you, but we tried our best, and
the internet isn't ink.
Yeah. We emailed the lawyer back and said, hey, this is what we've done, like sent him a laundry list of things that we've done. And he was like, the only thing that he wrote back was, okay, thanks so much for jumping on this so fast. I'll let you know if my client has any more further actions for you. So he left it like open. So we were like, what the hell are we going to do with that?
Oh, man. All the time, Larry's going back. I don't have that stress going on.
Oh, right. Yeah, because like all those leaks actually started when I was doing stuff with him. Like there was one guy who I think he does the same thing that like Terry the Island Viper does. He'll like get orders for something for his store, and then he'll just tell people about it. So he just wanted to entrust us with that information and get that information out to people before it was officially announced. So we're like, we're happy to do it. And so that actually turned into like the niche that we have with the website and the YouTube channel is just, we'll talk about current toys and stuff like that. But I think our bread and butter is just publishing stuff that the toy companies don't want us to publish.
Viper Scott says, at least they didn't send the Pinkertons. Which I found are based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is great to know. No, that's crazy. Like, yeah. And see, that's stress you don't need in your life. Where it's like, This is supposed to be my hobby,
right?
This is supposed to be fun. Yeah, I'm making some money off it, but I'm not making enough to be a living,
right?
And you don't need that type of stress in your life. I mean, I live with stress. People have watched me go off on my stream. Oh. Everyone's like, you need to be on steroids again. I'm like, no, I don't. All right. I was on steroids when Viper Island hit my channel, and I lost my Instagram.
Oh my gosh. That
was back in I think November. So I lost it way before him. Before anyone else.
Yeah,
like he hit me up again because he hit me twice.
I just don't understand that.
Yeah, and then I happened to be on steroids when I got it, and it just set me off. And there was someone else that had been bugging me too that weekend or leading into the weekend, so I was like fuming in prednisone.
Just lose your shit.
Oh my god. And that live stream, everyone's like, oh my god, you need to be on steroids more. I'm like, no, I don't. And then a couple weeks ago, the whole artist shark thing. And I know
yeah.
So that whole thing, what him and his buddies have done, telling people to unsubscribe to myself.
Yep.
And Bobby B. And I know you guys did a stream, and as more and more things came out, it was like, follow the breadcrumbs, and there fucking aren't any, dude. This guy, he's doing this all on his own.
He is and
it's sad, but
puppeteer.
Yeah. and like that just kind of set me off because he deleted stuff.
Oh yeah, that's his
He
MO.
had all his friends saying shit, so that whole artist shark thing, like it set me off.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I can imagine. Like, it's just
and I'm very boisterous. Like a lot of like most people know that. Like a lot of people, they just want to talk about the toy news, and like I can't keep my mouth shut. It's probably been one of my biggest problems throughout my life.
Yeah.
But hey, that's
makes
who I
me who you are.
am. So is there
really-
anything else before we wrap it up here? It's been almost 3 hours. I know I'm glad you looked at it. You're like, I know these go pretty long.
No, it's fine. This is like it doesn't feel like it's that long. So it's the whole adage of time flies when you're
Yeah.
having fun. No, I want to give a big shout out to my partner in crime, the Toy Sorceress, who is amazing, and I can't wait to see her in person to so we can just enjoy the heck out of SDCC and bring everybody what they want. And I actually want to still have a good time at the show, so I'm trying to like balance like. I don't want to cover things 24 hours a day. I want to have fun.
When I went to Joe Fest on Saturday morning before the show started, I woke up, I went downstairs, and I did a walkthrough. That was the only video that I did. I was planning on doing content, but I was like, I don't want to. I just want to hang out with these guys these people that I've become friends with. And that's all, that's all that I did. I didn't try and do any reviews from a hotel room or anything. I didn't even wake up early to do it. I was just up. I walked downstairs. I'm like, hey, let me see if I can just walk down there. Because I had one of the passes. You know what? I think anyone could have walked down. Their security was not the greatest. I'll just admit it. All right. I think anyone could have just walked down there. And I did just a walkthrough of the whole place. And that's the only content that I created.
Oh.
And I didn't even put up till like Sunday because I was like, it was either did it like late that night when I got back at like 3 or 4 in the morning, or I did it like 6 in the morning when I woke up. Something crazy. But I didn't want to create content. I just wanted to chat with everyone. And
Yeah.
I think you might find the same thing where it's like, it seems like a great idea.
Yeah.
But then it becomes a business trip, not a vacation.
Right. Yeah. So trying to learn how to balance that. This will be the first time that we're trying to do this like at a con. We went to WonderCon and did a little bit of it just to get a feel for it. But yeah, I don't want to be just covering content all the time. But like, yeah, I think you did it right. It's like it's about fostering relationships with the people that you see online. You've never met. Like Mega J is going to be there. I've never met Mega J in person, so I'm like, I never met Hatter in person. I have met Ken, but Ken's not going to be there. But.
Ken doesn't count.
Yeah.
So how many people are you that you creative like relationships with are you going to meet for the first time?
Geez, a lot of people. There's folks that watch the channel that will be there.
That's the crazy. So the craziest thing, and you probably hit out with this, when people say your name.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this on the replay or anything, Michael's too nice to say this, but I say it. Don't come up and say, hey, I watch your channel all the time. I'm John. No, fucking say what your YouTube name is, right? Because we don't know who the fuck John is or Jay, unless if you're Jay Solo Arts. Okay, if you're Jay Solo Arts right here, and you're like, hey, I'm Jay from Jay Solo Arts, then I'll know who you are.
Yes. He had a great comment, by the way.
What? Don't let the hobby of your hobby take away. Oh, my dad used to always say the same thing because he used to be a runner, and he would not that, but he'd say the same concept. He was a runner. He had a running club. I'm like, why don't you make money off this? Once you start getting paid for it, it's no longer fun.
Yep.
Well, I still get paid for some YouTube. I still find it fun. So, but no, just if anyone's watching on the replay, they want to get to know Michael. You've made it this far into it. Do not introduce yourself as your fucking name unless that's what your name is. All right. Your YouTube name, your screen name. That is how we know you. All right.
Yeah.
we tell you all the time who we are. So if I went up to someone and said, "Hey, I'm Lawrence," I think most people would be like, "Oh, I've seen you before. You're, you know." They either say, "Hey, awesome," or "Hey, you're an asshole. Leave me the fuck alone." Good news, I don't go up to people, so
Yeah.
I have to
It
look up everyone because I'm so short. But that's another thing.
It was funny when Brick and Ken and I were hanging out up in Sacramento. We went to this vintage toy store up there, and there was a guy who recognized Ken in the store and started talking to him. And Ken's like, "Oh, who else do you watch?" He's like, "I watch you. I watch Toy Habits. I watch this." And that was at the other end of the store. And he was like, Ken was like, "Michael, could you come over here for a second?" It was just. I mean, the guy. It's like the guy was like starstruck. He shook my hand like 5 or 6 times. He wanted a picture, and I was just like, I was really flattered. Like it I'm a humble person, and like it was just like it was really endearing that that person like wanted to have that interaction with me.
Isn't it strange though?
It is, yes. I don't want it to sound like come off the wrong way, but
No,
it is really weird.
no. That at PowerCon, a couple people recognized me. Again, I'm not at a Joe thing, and we discussed earlier, might have been before we recorded. I never want to be a Joe channel, but I know where I've kind of I cover other things, but people say, "Oh yeah, you're one of the best Joe tubers out there." I'm like, that's not really what I wanted, but I understand why it ended up there, and that is everything that I really do love. So at PowerCon, there was a few. I knew Joe Fest was going to be more. What's weird is that like when someone at my toy store notices me and says something,
Yeah.
where like John, the owner of Sergeant Reds, he'll say, "Hey, look, we got a celebrity here," and this one guy was like, "I know who you are," and I just thought he was being nice. And then he's like, "Yeah, you're a punk with toy," and I was like, "Oh." I had another guy that kept looking at me at Sergeant Reds. He kept looking at me, and I knew that he had recognized me. And then finally he says, "Hey," he goes, "You're a punk with toys, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I heard you talk about that. You're from the area." I'm like, "Yeah, I talk about it all the time." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I saw you on a Toy Kind of Mood," and I was like, "Oh," and he goes, "Oh, do you have a channel?" And I'm like, I don't expect everyone, but the fact that you watch a Toy Kind of Mood and saw me on there, and then just in reference heard me say that I'm from Michigan and Detroit area, but didn't realize that I had my own channel. It's not like you're watching my channel,
Right.
But I mean, I kind of got used to it. Like when I got back into skating, everyone would see me at the skate park, and I'd get tagged in it, and I'd always be tagged at the skate park. And I think a lot of people think I ride for them because I'm friends with all those guys that ride for the team. So people would come up to me like, "Hey, you're a punk rock skate dad, right?" And so you kind of get used to it, but it does get it. Again, it's not a bad thing because
Right.
it makes you feel really good when people come up to you and they talk to you and they want to discuss why they like you. It's like it makes you feel like, all right, you know what I'm doing is mattering to someone.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is strange because it's like I'm not a celebrity,
Right.
I don't do movies, I'm not Tom Cruise, and not that anyone, is
For yourself.
but yeah, it is absolutely awesome. Like getting to meet all these people, and you've got to do it already. So, your channel is much bigger than mine. So I know you've gone through it before, especially being in California. I think you get a lot of the conventions. It seems like you guys go to, but yeah. Allison, here, a little snide mark. Tom Cruise is the one person you're taller than.
Bring in the stat.
No, Tom Cruise is taller than me. There's more than one person that I'm taller than. All right, that's not many, but there's one.
Prince.
Prince, yeah, Prince was actually shorter than me.
Yes.
But he wore high heels.
Yeah. Yes, he did.
Well, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you very much for your time. Tell everyone where they can find you at.
Let's see. You can find us on YouTube at Toy Habits _com, and you can find us on Instagram at Toy Habits _website. You can DM me whenever. Like, I love talking to people. That's the most enjoyment that I get out of doing all this. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity. And this has been a blast. And I've like, time flies. Like, could have done this for like 3 more hours. This was so much fun.
I have to sometimes even myself be like, I will be here till I got to wake up for work.
Yeah.
All the links, is YouTube, Instagram, and website are in the description.
Yes.
At least I think they are.
Yes. Oh yes. And you
I
can
plan
find us
on putting them there.
on our website at toyhabits.com. Yeah, that's where we spend 90% of the workload that we do. And the other 10% is we have a weekly live stream that we try to do on Fridays, but Toy Sorceress and I are actually going to do a live stream together either Monday or Tuesday, because I'll be at
We don't do Mondays.
Got it. Tuesdays. Tuesdays. Okay.
Don't make me crush you.
Crush.
No. Hey, if Monday's when you have to do it, that's fine. I'll just wait for everyone to finish. Then they can come over and finally watch me. Like I said, you can do it any day. You're going to have 200 people watching. You're one of the few people that can go live at any time that you want. And just, I don't know, like, you must have the magical notification that people still get.
I don't know. I don't know.
Like I said, it all goes to your chemistry. You guys have great chemistry.
Thanks.
And I mean, it works. I think people don't realize, and it's hard if you start doing YouTube with someone and you don't have chemistry, but you like the person, someone has to be like, yeah, we don't have chemistry. So we need to either bring in someone else, and then there's too many people talking, or you just need to go. Because you're boring as shit.
Tell it like it is.
Anyway, thank you guys all for tuning in. Much appreciated. Michael, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I was really looking forward to this, and it did not disappoint. So, everyone, I will see you again on Monday, where I always am for 3+ hours. And Michael, you can be seen. You're not going to be on this Friday?
No, I gotta. My wife and I are going to a concert tomorrow, and then so I was told the Toy Sorceress, let's just do a stream together. We'll just punt the Friday one till Tuesday.
So Tuesday.
Yes.
You guys all hear that? Tuesday, not Monday.
Right.
Sorry, moderators.
But
Both
then,
my moderators are on Tuesday
oh, okay.
on different channels,
Oh, okay.
and they overlap each other. And I'm like, you sons of bitches. Well, we're going to get out of here. Again, thank you very much. Everyone have a wonderful night. Michael, thank you. And I will be talking to you probably in about 2 minutes.
All right.